Hello, good morning. It's now time for the news. My name is Pakwesi Shandoff. Work on the 68-kilometer Nalerugu-Nyankpanduri Bunkrugu Road in the northeast region has halted. JoyNews checks have found out that the withdrawal of construction materials and the closure of the contractor's campsite is due to the non-payment of funds for already executed work. Paramount Chief of the area, Na Abuba Nasingmong, wants the contractor to return to site to fulfill President Akufo-Addo's campaign pledge to the people. Lansah reports.
The 14th of April 2020, the Chinese construction firm City Ghana Limited commenced works to upgrade and reseal the 68-kilometer Nalerugu-Nyankpanduri Bindi Bunkrugu Road after a deal with the government of the New Patriotic Party. The arrival of the contractor on the road caused a great feeling of relief among residents, motorists and passengers. To show that they were serious about the construction of the road, the company set up its camp at Pamele, a small community closer to the Nyankpanduri town. The project was expected to complete in 2023. The contractor, however, began to vanish from the road almost immediately after the 2020 elections were over. JoyNews checks now reveal that the contractor has finally demobilized and evacuated completely from site. The camp, which used to be like a graveyard of heavy construction machinery, is now emptied and abandoned, with everything except these physical structures gone. This sudden vacation of the contractor has sparked public outcry, with some residents and motorists expressing shock and disappointment.
I don't actually know the word to use, but we are devastated about the way they have left, because the road is not good. And from here to the town, we are very suffering. We are suffering from the way the weather condition of the road, how it's blowing from places to places.
Actually, I myself, I'm so disappointed in them, because when this project started, we were so amazed, we were so happy. But got to a time they just stopped completely. So people are so worried and we're also disappointed.
When they were leaving, I think the community is not even aware of what they are leaving. So we are worried. That's our serious heartache, because the road is still down. They didn't do anything. They just left. We are highly disappointed, because the way they just left, even the chief is not aware.
According to the residents, the return of the road to its deplorable state is yet again hampering social and economic activities in the area, as many communities are unable to access basic public service centers such as hospitals and market facilities. The paramount chief of the area, Na Abuba Nasingmong, revealed that he had had to organize communal labor to save the road from further deterioration. He's pleading with the president to ensure the contractor is brought back to fix the road.
Recently, when I was passing at Pamali, the camp that was in Pamali, I see all the contractors, they took their equipments away. There is nothing there. Bulldozers and what all, they took their tools. You see, and I was very, very sad. So it was after that one, immediately I reached home, then I organized this communal labor. So we will plead to our President, Your Excellency, we are on our knees. Do your best and help us save this road, save life on this road. In fact, it is not good.
The construction of the road was one of the major campaign promises of the New Patriotic Party to the people of this area. However, after nearly 7 years in power, the road is still far from being fixed, as the contractor is nowhere to be found. The District Chief Executive for Bunkrugu-Nyankpanduri Assembly, Joseph Luknan, in his reaction insists the government is committed to completing the road project before 2024.
Opening up Bunkrugu-Nyankpanduri district to the regional capital, that's in the Northeast region. It is meant to open Ghana to the Republic of Togo in the northern Togo. So it is not a campaign road. I am much aware, and I'm very hopeful that this road, we would work on it before the 2024 elections, even if it is not fully completed, but at least it will be made very motorable.
Elias Sutanko reporting from Bunkrugu for JoyNews.
In most minibuses, often referred to as trotro here in Ghana, The traditional method of communication between a bus conductor and the driver has been tapping the vehicle, but the clang sound produced from the beating of the conductor's palm against the gate does not only irritate a number of passengers but also presents some health threats in his daily commute. In public transport in search of a decent job, Emmanuel Odum, an unemployed graduate, was challenged to develop the traffic technology. Now, this prototype is aimed at improving communication between a minibus driver and his conductor using a lighting system.
Well, you probably may have heard this very sound in any minibus known locally here in Ghana as trotro. This very sound is no ordinary sound, but a conventional communication between a driver and his bus conductor known as the mate, as they offload and unload passengers on their way. The sound is produced from tapping one's palm on the metallic gate of a minibus. Although the clang sound is to the passengers' benefit, some passengers argue its intensity appears somewhat irritating and a health threat.
Me, for instance, I've been always complaining about what, even this morning, I was in a car coming from Afutoja to Atonsu, and the way the mate hit the car, I was beside him. I was shocked. So I told that guy that, in fact, they should stop doing that, because if they keep on doing that, it's going to create something unusual to anybody with having a problem with blood pressure or whatnot.
Hey, we go at him that day in the car. Every crowd, we okay, but only yes, I did. In fact, they did and you boom, bang, 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 bang. Every cry also be before, and snow beyond the flow. Too much.
Mates should learn to talk than hitting hard on the gate. It's sometimes annoying.
But are there any effects to the bus conductor constantly seeing banging hard on the gate?
For the effects, looking at your palm, I mean, you feel pain, but it wouldn't last longer because it's not like something that you'll be doing consistently. Yeah, so the pace is there, all right, but it's not a consistent thing.
I get blisters in my palm. Because of the pains, I sometimes skip work. We, the drivers, are sometimes surprised at how they hit the gate. It is sometimes unnecessary. Sometimes, some mates hit so hard on the gate for the car to stop, but nobody joins. It's a waste of time for most passengers.
The mate wants to tell the driver that, let's stop, someone wants to alight.
An unemployed graduate is changing the narrative.
I'm Emmanuel Odum from Mumford, also known as Jama in the Gumor West District of Central Region. I completed University of Ghana Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in the year 2012, and I continue to have my national service in Tamale, specifically in Yankpala in the Tolon District. Afterwards, I continued to have my master's in animal science at the University for Development Studies. I completed last year, 2021, November. I was part of NAPCO. Due to the challenges of payment, I couldn't be sustained. So I had to travel down to Kumasi looking for greener pastures. They take action based on what is being told to them. Thank you.
In his daily struggles for a job in Ghana's second largest city, Kumasi, Emmanuel was struck to develop the traffic light, a coinage from trotro and traffic.
I was inspired when I began using the trotro over many years after I've moved from Tamale to Kumasi, and through my job search from Kumasi, anytime that I am going for application and I sit in vehicle, I got the experience that trotro mates and drivers went through.
Traffic is a light signaling tool which uses switches and 3 different colored bulb system to improve driver-conductor communications.
We have the power source. This is a somewhat 2 of them which provide 3 volts to supply the lights. So, or we can also use the USB side which can be connected to the vehicle if the vehicle has USB side, or there can still be a direct connection from the traffic to the vehicle electrical system, so that it will be able to provide energy to the signal tool.
As a pressing need facing most Ghanaian developers and entrepreneurs, Emmanuel is hoping to advance his technology, but he is disadvantaged by the lack of financial support. For JoyNews, Emmanuel Bright-Kweku reporting.
Now, Boko West District Chief Executive Isahaku Tahiru has revealed that refugees from Burkina Faso who are currently settled at Sapeliga have so far been compliant, law-abiding, and have not given the District Security Council any reason to be alarmed. He said last year, when the refugees first arrived, the District Assembly was concerned about the security implications of accommodating them. He, however, noted that so far they have demonstrated honesty, comportment, and discipline, and need more support to live in dignity. The DCE was giving an address when the Navrongo-Bolgatanga Catholic Diocesan Development Organization, with support from the Catholic Relief Services, donated assorted food items and toiletries to the refugees at Sapeliga. Correspondent Albert Sori reports.
These Burkinabe refugees started arriving at Sapeliga in the Boko West district of the Upper East region in the year 2019. They were forced to flee from their village in Burkina Faso after terrorists raided some communities there. Boko West District Chief Executive Isahaku Tahiru recounts.
There was a situation at Kaya, a village called Kaya in Burkina Faso, where these jihadis attacked the communities, killed almost everybody. The women and children had to escape. And this is where they found themselves here. When we got this information, we rushed to come and see. The situation was really too bad. That time it was a rainy season. There was nothing like this. Get some few structures. You enter inside and the whole place is water. And look at this, our children.
He says the refugees, since their arrival, have coexisted peacefully with Ghanaians and have been law-abiding.
We were not even sure. These people that are here are the jihadis themselves hiding here. But we kept on to make sure that they were people who really needed our assistance. They are so disciplined. They comport, they listen to us, and whatever instructions we give them, they comply.
According to the District Chief Executive, it has been difficult supporting the refugees to settle here in Sapeliga, and the Assembly has largely depended on aid and donations from NGOs and other benevolent organizations. One such organization is the Navrongo-Bolgatanga Catholic Diocesan Development Organization, NABOCADO, which, with support from the Catholic Relief Services, donated assorted food items and toiletries to the refugees at Sapeliga. The donation was part of their Christmas and New Year corporate social responsibility of giving hope to the underprivileged in society. Most Reverend Alfred Agenta is Bishop of the Navrongo-Bolgatanga Catholic Diocese.
We are touching the refugee problem directly and concretely as we see the faces of these children, women, and our brothers and sisters. This is not normal. This is not human. This is not dignifying. And so it is for this reason that we are grateful that we have had opportunity also to be part and parcel of bringing relief to our brothers and sisters here.
Over 1,400 refugees who are now settled into 338 households at Sapeliga benefited from the donation. Each household received bags of rice, maize, and beans, as well as cooking oil, salt, and some non-food items, including soap, blankets, mosquito nets, sanitary pads, mats, and buckets. Each household was also given a cash amount of 320 Ghana cedis. Ghana country representative for the Catholic Relief Services, Daniel Mumuni, noted that the refugee crisis in Africa was rising despite decades of efforts to address it.
Until a few months or maybe a year ago, these people lived in very safe, secure, nurturing environments and communities. And just at the snap of a finger, they are displaced people in a completely strange country. It's a sharp reminder of how we should also ensure that we are maintaining peace internally as a country, even intertribal situations, chieftaincy situations, but more importantly, the growing threat of violent extremism.
The refugees at Sapeliga expressed their gratitude to the Catholic Church and the Catholic Relief Services for the kind gesture. For Joy News, Albert Sorry, Sapeliga, Boko West District.
Still outside of the capital, Member of Parliament for Wa West, Superintendent retired Peter Lansah has lamented the inadequate furniture at basic schools in the district. Speaking at a ceremony where he donated 400 dual decks to the Wa West District Directorate of the Ghana Education Service, Mr. Tobu said that students should no longer be made to study using stones as chairs and the bare floor as writing decks. Rafik Salam reports from Nyole.
This is Nyole RC Primary School. It has a total population of 491 pupils. The school can only boast of 60 tables and chairs. The situation paints a mental picture of how widespread the furniture challenge is in the district. Primary 1 has a total population of 36 pupils. There is no single chair in the classroom, but they have no option than to sit on stones to learn in a worn-out cemented classroom riddled with potholes. Jimin Kubu Moses is the head teacher of Nyole RC Primary School.
Normally when lessons are going on, those that are lucky to find stones, they sit on them. Those that are not fortunate to have stones, they have to lie prostrate. They have to lie on their belly before they can write, which is very difficult. So just as we have appealed to the MP, we are pleading that he should take expedite action on it so that he can come to our aid for the children to have a conducive environment to learn. Looking at the floor is not equally good. How can children lie on their belly on such a floor to write? The situation is devastating. And we are appealing that though we are appealing for the dual desks, we equally need the floors to be worked on. So if they can provide some cement and other things, we'll be able to work on it.
What was the district director of the Ghana Education Service, Ahmed Uzituun, in an interview, agrees Ukulag and Sinka to the inadequate furniture situation in the district.
Most of the schools don't have furniture. You cannot even find a single one in the classroom. So most of the children are lying on their bellies to write. And you know, for better learning outcomes, you need to have tables and chairs for children to sit on, to learn how to write, and then to learn better. But if children go to school and they are always lying on the floor to learn, what kind of learning do you want them to learn? What leaders are we going to produce without these necessary things that they need in their learning situation?
Deeply concerned about the inadequate furniture at schools in the district, Wa West Member of Parliament, Superintendent retired Peter Lansah donated 400 dual decks to the district to help ease the furniture challenge. Superintendent retired Peter Lenchina Tubu, who visited the Nyola RC Primary School to inspire the pupils on their first day at school, stated that education in the country has taken a nosedive, which is a sad spectacle.
That government will also do something better, because education is government business. It's a collective business. As a member of parliament, the little that I can do to support, I will do. But I also personally appeal to government. This is an eyesore. It's embarrassing for a country that takes education as a key to development. This cannot continue. And the children under this state cannot learn to become the children that want them to become, and the elders that want them to become, and the Ghanaian that want him to become or her to become, for this country to progress. We need to start to do something radical. We need to start to do something drastic. We need to start to look at education again. This is not the way to go.
The visit took the legislature to some schools in the district, namely Nyola and Wichao, where he donated my first copy books and calipo drinks to some pupils.
I never got this opportunity for somebody coming around inspiring me in class 1 or class 2 that I need to stay in school. My parents did well, the teachers did well. Today, because of education, I am a member of parliament. And I think the best that I can do is to inspire these young ones to stay in school.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Nyole.
Now, the West African Center for Water, Irrigation and Sustainable Agriculture of the University for Development Studies is working in 15 communities in the northern, upper east and upper west regions to restore lost economic trees which are native to these regions. Most economic, medicinal and edible trees in these areas are near extinction due to activities of deforestation. But this is not only affecting communities economically, but also its ecosystem. Martina Bugri reports.
The project, which is being funded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Denmark, is working to restore 6 different tree species like the baobab, dawadawa, marula, bombax, lena, and jujuba. Speaking at Gunda in the Kumbungu district, project lead and director of Wawisa, Professor Felix Abagali, said these trees were adaptable to the area and very beneficial.
And as you said rightly, we have observed that there are some trees that are adaptable to our environment, which have so many benefits to us as indigenous. But these trees are gradually being degraded. And those trees are the baobab, the dawadawa, the lania, and the bombax. Getting these trees for us to use by planting them and also teaching ourselves the benefits of these trees. And I remember I went to London, went to Nagungana, and I asked people about the baobab fruit. And how many of us know that the baobab fruit is more beneficial to us than the orange in terms of vitamins? And many of us don't know that the baobab fruit has about 10 times the vitamin concentration compared to citrus, that's orange. We are not interested in these things. We're bringing in things that are not what used to our environment and can grow. If you take, they say baobab fruit, and I think Chief, you know, now the oil that we get from the baobab seed is the most expensive oil, I think, in the world.
The chief of the area, John Mahama Yakubu, who described the intervention as timely, said most of the trees are a source of income for the people.
Actually, this project that is coming is a project that is coming to really rescue us from that aspect. I can even say that between today and yesterday, there was a bigger problem we are resolving from a tree, a woman cutting someone dawadawa tree, and that person think the dawadawa tree doesn't belong to this community, it belongs to their community. And all is because of the scarcity. All is because of the scarcity. So we have not seen a lot of benefit, but we don't really have the trees. 90%.
That'll be all for the news. My name is Pakwesi Shandov. The show continues with some more Kojo Brace.
All right, so welcome back to the AM show. Time for us to bring you what the papers are reporting this morning and to delve into them to understand what really, we can make out of the issues that the papers are reporting. We'll be joined by Justice Abdullah, who's a lawyer and a law lecturer at UPSA, who'll be joining us for us to go through the papers. But I have with me the Daily Graphic for today, the Ghanaian Times, the Daily Guide newspaper, the New Crusading Guide, the Economy Times is also represented here today. Now, on the front page of the Daily Graphic, it says, road fatalities down 20%, lowest in 20 years. National Cathedral Project, wise decision, Reverend Stephen Wengam says so. Boost for local content, mining, investment and receipt, reach $10 billion. And retirees call for debt exchange exemption. So that's what the Daily Graphic is reporting today on the front pages. Now, with the Ghanaian Times, it has $10 billion boost for mining industry as new local content participation regulations take effect. We'll be discussing that with the lawyer. Now, exemptors from domestic debt exchange program, pensioners, bondholders forum says, we are saving $3 million monthly employing local engineers at Atuabo. Ghana Gas MD says. Okay, so that's also on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. At the back page, Dogbo to face Ramirez for WBO title on April 1. Kotoko drop points again. Oh, Saki saves Legon Cities. Okay, so it's a former World Boxing Organization, that's WBO junior featherweight champion Isaac Royalstorm Dogbe has declared his readiness to reclaim his spot as a world champion against Cuban Robesi Ramirez. Dogbe, who was 28, faces off against the 29-year-old Ramirez on April 1 in a WBO featherweight title fight in the USA with a venue yet to be confirmed. So that's it there for you. And I was speaking at a media briefing yesterday in Accra, dubbed Journey to Rule the World 2. Dogbe described Ramirez as a no pushover and a winner. Quote, my opponent is a great fighter. At this level, no one is a pushover. Everyone is a king, and so it will be two kings facing off. End of quote. Now, he added that Ramirez, a two-time Olympic gold winner, provides the right experience and test for him at this stage of his career. He only welcomed tough and highly rated fighters. That's according to Dogbe there. All right, so let's wish him all the best. We'll be keeping an eye on that particular fight. Now, a late drama ensued at the Aliu Mahama Sports Stadium in Tamale as visitors Asante Kotoko's late goal against Tamale City, touted as the winner, was cancelled by a last-ditch effort from the home side, splitting the points to end the Bet Power Premier League match day 12 fixture 1-0. Kotoko, who has struggled throughout the encounter to break down Tamale City, found a breakthrough in the 84th minute when City defender Issa Nyabela turned in Kotoko Stephen Mwakale's low cross intended for Samuel Boateng in an attempt to block it. But City, who lies second from bottom and are battling relegation, did not despair but mounted a comeback, ending the leveller 2 minutes later through substitute Babamu Ibrahim. So that's the stories there in the Times. Now, the Daily Guide newspaper. Adom Group to reduce housing deficit. It has a picture of Dr. Bright Adom. Ghana Gas saves $3 million for using local engineers. It comes with a picture of Dr. Ben Asante, the MD of Ghana Gas, and Fatima Abubakar, who is the Deputy Minister for Information. Reshuffle looms as a Greek minister pulls out. Forget the naysayers, Anglican bishop tells Nana. Okay. Jenapo reject Mohammed's shade. Those are the stories on the front page of the Daily Guide. At the back page, it says, no World Cup clause in Ronaldo's contract. Okay. Ghanaians not interested in stars. Okay, so that's a question. It comes with a question mark. And dogs kill ex-Zambian striker. Oh, Okay. Now, the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Give chiefs legal backing to fight galamsey. Chief appeals to government. Paul Chum Berima tops as best first-time MP in Parliament. Mineral investment and receipt to hit $10 billion as Minerals Commission increases items on procurement. Okay, Zoom MP account to constituent and risk involved in Gensa deal. Ghana Gas Staff Association reviews. Okay. Now the Economy Times newspaper, Ghana business activity downturn softens on CD rally IMF deal. Bank of Ghana authorizes 9 entities to undertake forex broker transactions and CD depreciation to be controlled in 2023 if things remain same as expected, according to an economist. Okay, so lawyer Abdullahi, Justice Abdullahi is ready and he is with us on Zoom. Lawyer Justice Abdullahi, good morning, and I hope you're well. Hello, Justice, can you hear me?
You.
Great. I hope you're well.
What has been good to us? Yourself?
I am well, and good to have you on the show this morning.
Absolutely. It's always fantastic being here.
Great. Let's start from the Daily Graphic. It says, National Cathedral Project wise decision. Reverend Stephen Wengam says, road fatalities down 20%, lowest in 20 years. Boost for local content mining. Investment receipt reached $10 billion. Retirees call for debt exchange exemption. Okay. Now, let's start off with the road fatalities down by 20%. Although road crashes and fatalities remain a grave concern in the country, latest statistics indicate that for the first time in 20 years, in 2022, crashes on the roads reduced by 20%. Now, the statistics made available to the Daily Graphic by the National Road Safety Authority indicated that from January to December last year, out of the 14,960 reported road crashes, 2,373 people lost their lives. Those crashes, which involved 25,754 vehicles, caused injuries to 15,690 people. In 2021, some 2,970 deaths occurred through road crashes, a decline from the previous year, 2020, when 3,073 people lost their lives on the road. What this means is that death through road crashes reduced by 20.1% in 2022 compared with the 2021 and also 2020, which had the data at 22%. Well, lawyer, so I mean, we all use the road. Hearing this, what's your reaction to this data that has been put out by the Road Safety Authority?
It sounds very tragic, and I am deeply worried about this. I have questioned over the years why we have to lose precious lives to road accidents. We imagine you are mentioning figures and numbers as though these are just figures and numbers of rocks, stones, of objects. These are human beings who are perishing on daily basis. These are people's mothers we are talking about, people's fathers, breadwinners, people's children, people who could have indeed contributed meaningfully to our collective development and growth. These are the kind of people we are losing to recklessness and sometimes to indecisions and sometimes wickedness of our leaders. I have consistently since the year 2020 called for a nationalistic approach to the fight against road accidents. And my call was stemmed from the level of enthusiasm that we showed during the fight against COVID. you saw a clear-cut policy and indeed a determination by the state in fighting against COVID. We may not have succeeded, but there was a clear intention, there was a clear roadmap, and indeed there was a holistic attitude from both the state's perspective and indeed individuals willing and ready to battle COVID to the last minute. And I don't know whether you've bothered to look at the numbers of COVID, the number of people who perished, and the number of people who even contracted COVID. I mean, during the peak periods. We didn't even lose 1/3 of the numbers that we are churning out today, that we are supposed to even be happy with. We didn't lose less than 1/3 of this number. We didn't lose up to 500 human lives during the entire period, in fact, during the peak periods of COVID. Now, this has been a period of about 2 years, now heading to the 3rd year of COVID. And if we have lost maximum of 1,000 people put together, the known and unknown numbers, even if it's up to 1,000, imagine the amount of investment we put into COVID, the commitment that we put in it. In fact, the level of preparedness that governments and citizens went into the fight against COVID. Why was it so? Because we needed our lives and the lives of our family members and friends to be saved for the sole purpose of developing this country. Now, every year, we get these numbers from road fatalities as to the numbers of persons dying. In fact, I think we are, if I'm not mistaken, the average number of people we lose every year is now hovering between 2,500 and 3,000 every year. And we see very little commitment. Losing 3,000, in fact, even if 2,000 people every year for things that are easily redeemable, for things that ought not to have ever happened. And the only thing we do is to simply put up an advert saying that if you drink, don't drive. If you do this, don't do this. Campaigns are good. Slogans are nice. But are they enough? Have they been enough? Are they deterrent enough? Have they been succeeded in saving the lives of our compatriots? It has never been. It could have been my life today. It could be someone else's life tomorrow. It could be another person's life today. It appears that the only time we take some amount of seriousness in the fight against road accidents and the issues surrounding it is when prominent figures perish. But that ought not to be the case. That ought not to be the case. We need to show that zeal, that determination to stop road fatalities completely. Because they are not worth the kind of lives that we lose. We need those people perishing, those who are orphaned as a result of these road crashes. They don't deserve that. Our family members need us to come back home safe. And we know the major roles contributing to this because the police and the appropriate other road safety commissions and all the other institutions, and indeed the Ministry of Road, they have the figures of the roads that witness the biggest of crashes. My position is not to simply target these roads, but they could be the starting point of either redesigning our roads, lightening our roads. Indeed, if you ask a primary 1 student how to stop road accidents, they can outline literally every single step that ought to be taken. And these solutions are not lost on our leaders. They are not lost on road users either. But someone must be there to enforce the right things.
Okay.
If road users are not willing to do what is right to save their own lives.
Okay.
There's a reason why authorities are put in place. Because it's just unacceptable. It's so disheartening. And it's so painful to see your loved one that you said hello to just a minute ago be brought back in a sack because someone else didn't do his work well, because someone else didn't construct that road, because someone else didn't fill that pothole, because someone else who is responsible to ensure that that driver did not drive reckless simply took 5 cedis from him and allowed him to speed up. Because somebody else who was responsible, who ought to have known better, just sat back and allowed the rot to go on. Because of that, your mother never returns home.
Just by way of a little information about COVID-19, we, as of today, our total case count is 171,075. The death we recorded, we've recorded 1,461. So those are the number of people who have died.
Indeed, you just confirmed my point.
1,461. Yeah.
The entire 3 years lifespan of COVID in our country. And imagine the amount of resources that we put in there.
Okay.
And we cannot even do a scintilla of that in the fight against road fatalities and crashes.
So what do you think should change in our attempt to reduce the carnage on our roads? Like you allude to, we've done this over the years. Nothing huge seems to change. Now, it's good that we have reduced death by 20%, you know, or like the entire carnage by 20%. But there is more we can do. Like you said, these are people. These are not just numbers for numbers' sake. So, what do you think should change about our fight to help reduce the carnage on our roads?
Obviously, if you have been sloganing and screaming and it's not working, you ought to change the narrative. You need to do something that is much better, that's much enforceable, that is much desired. And like I said, even a primary one student will tell you how to reduce. First, you've attempted regulating how drivers drive on the roads, and it's not working. But nobody has checked the design of our roads. Nobody has bothered to put light on our roads. Almost all our major roads are still without lights. Till date, 21st century. Where you are lucky to find light poles there, you will never find the light working. And if a driver crashes, you complain. And the biggest of all these challenges is a single lane concept. The biggest of all these is a single lane concept.
Okay. So
if you check the statistics, you will notice that none of the dual carriages witness as much accidents as the single lanes. Single lanes, a little mistake from the oncoming vehicle, the other one is in danger.
Okay.
And when you have a dual carriage, even if it is a single on each side, even if it's single on each side, and it's properly demarcated with a median neatly done concrete median, the incidence of having one vehicle, an oncoming vehicle, moving into the lane of the other is minimal.
Okay.
And these are not solutions that are lost on anyone. And then you get somebody telling you that, well, when the roads are too good, people speed so much, and so accidents occur.
Okay.
I think that's too fallacious.
Okay. So you expect more to happen.
That's too fallacious.
Let's attach this one to it, because it's also something that we've been running a campaign against for over the years. Now, the Ghana AIDS Commission has launched their National AIDS Spending Assessment Report for 2019, 2020, and 2021, which shows that the country spent $323.7 million in the years under review. So from 2019, 2020 to 2021, we spent $323.7 million in trying to fight, HIV and AIDS. Now, the reports show that the total HIV and AIDS-related expenditure for 2019, 2020, and 2021 stood at $88,648,560 for 2019. 2020, we spent $107,280,242. And in 2021, we spent $127,828,300 respectively. Now, the Director General of the GAC, that's Dr. Shreme Etuahene, who made this known at the launch and dissemination of the NASA report, said the funds for each respective year were the total contribution made by the government, the private sector, and the international donor community. However, he said the findings showed an over-dependence on international sources in financing the national HIV response, as it had been over the years. If you look at how much we've spent and our gains, does it commensurate, or you think there's something that should change about the whole advocacy to help reduce, like we've seen about the road accident, in terms of HIV and AIDS? Should something change? What should that be?
I think similar to the road accidents and indeed all other lifestyle-related deaths, the biggest responsibility is on the individual. The individual has the biggest responsibility to restrain himself from getting involved in some of these issues in the first place. But like I said earlier, where the individual, because the individual is indeed human, he has options, he has choices, and he will exercise it as and when. And it is irrespective of how much you restrain the person. You cannot restrain a person from exercising his right to sex. It's impossible. Not even in the Arabian worlds or the Islamic worlds where there's strict compliance with some of these matters. You still cannot take it away. But interestingly, you will never find successes on AIDS and HIV in any of these strict Islamic worlds. I'm not advocating that we necessarily implement such strict measures here. But my point here is that government, regardless of the conduct of the individual, the citizen, still has a responsibility to cushion that individual if the unfortunate events happen. And these statistics that has just been doled out, telling us how much we've spent, of close to $330 million on HIV, and we are still having numbers increasing, tells you that something is not going right. Something is definitely not right. And that which is not going right is what we need to identify at this moment. Clearly, the advocacy has not worked. But if we are spending $300 million just to provide for people who have contracted lifestyle diseases, my thinking is that this $300 million could have been put in a better research into the incidence of AIDS itself, and possibly finding a cure. We've had several claims in this country of people who tell us that they have cure to HIV. I do not know the extent to which government, HIV/AIDS, to be specific, I don't know the extent to which government collaborated with such individuals to attempt finding a more lasting solution to this by collaborating with some of these institutions. It is okay to rely on traditional orthodox, medical fields to attempt finding solutions. But it is definitely better if a proportion of this is allocated to our traditional methods. And indeed, those who claim to have had it. I remember some time back, we had a man who was acclaimed to have indeed found a cure to HIV. And I understand he went to China to collaborate with some institutions in China and probably never came back. Now, why would such an individual, for instance, travel to China when the state of Ghana could have collaborated with this person to develop whatever medicine that he had to save us this huge $300 million continuously. In fact, it looks like every year we are spending on the average about $100 million. My position is that a proportion of this could have been invested or could be invested in those who are making these claims.
Okay.
And it will save us this $100 million every year because it's now become a ritual. And there's no sight to the end. So why don't you allocate a portion to these people and allocate a portion to those in the regular medical fields and see the best option out?
Okay.
Because really, the advocacy is not working. The restraint on the individual is not working. The continuous crying wolf is never working. Find something else, because if you keep doing the same thing as the speakers would tell you, if you keep doing the same things over the years and it's still not working, and you are still at it, there must be a reason why you should be called a madman. Because you can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result.
Okay.
Let's change our approach to some of these events, some of these issues, and let's see whether or not we can have a better outcome.
Justice,
A continuous perpetuation of the same solutions that do not yield results really make us a man.
Okay, all right. Let's go into the Ghanaian Times paper now. Now, $10 billion boost for mining industry as new local content participation regulations take effect. Well, this might be your area, so you help us understand it further. Now, following increases in items on the procurement list for the provision of goods and services from 41 to 50 in the mining industry, investment and mineral receipts have hit nearly $10 billion. This is as a result of coming into force of the Minerals and Mining Local Content and Local Participation Regulation 2020 LI 2431 on December 22, 2020. The purpose of the regulations, among others, is to promote job creation using local expertise, goods and services in the mining industry and their retention in the country. The law is also to achieve the minimum in-country spending on goods and services and to create mining and mineral-related industries that will sustain economic development. Pursuant to Regulation 7 of LI 2431, the Commission is required to publish a local procurement list which stipulates the goods and services with Ghanaian content which are to be procured in the country. So, I mean, it is good news for the country, isn't it, the lawyer?
Absolutely.
And how best can we ensure that the implementation is effectively done?
As usual, there are always questions to be asked. If you tell me $10 billion have been invested, I mean, literally invested in our economy through the local content bill, in this particular case, the local content law, I will expect to see how this really reflects on our people. But $10 billion is not some coins in the street. $10 billion can literally revolutionize our entire economy. Indeed, $3 billion is being fought over by the government with IMF. $3 billion. So imagine what $10 billion can be. So I will expect a reflection of $10 billion on our economy without necessarily just taking these figures on the face of it. But it's a good it's a good policy. Local content is a good policy. I think our biggest challenge with local government is the enforcement. And then indeed preparing the local, the indigene to indeed take advantage of some of these areas. It's the same thing with the oil and gas industry, and it's indeed, in fact, in the entire extractive industry generally. The government has been doing so well in the push for local content to be a mainstream of these extractive industries. But as I said earlier, we need to be able to show more for it. We need to prepare our people. We need to capacity building is something that ought to be targeted to take good advantage of this area. It shouldn't just be buying of goods from locals, because we need the buying of logistics from within the local industry. You would notice most of the time that the multinational companies may indeed try to buy from the local guy. The local guy would in turn buy it from China and supply to the and so really the money that ought to have stayed here ends up going outside. And we lose the whole essence of this local content policy that should have revolutionized our economies, because we are still not developing the sort of industries that should feed these extractive sectors to take complete and indeed a better advantage of the system. So I think it's a good it's good that we are getting these figures, but we should interrogate it further to know exactly how much stayed within the economy and how much left, so that we can find means of curbing the flight of the dollars from within our jurisdiction.
Now, relatedly, the managing director of the Ghana Gas Company Limited, Dr. Ben Asante, has revealed that as part of the company's move to indigenize its operations, it has replaced Chinese expatriates running its Atuabo plant with local engineers, a move that saved the company some $3 million in operation cost every month. He made the revelation when he took his stand at the State of the Agency's report, a regular press engagement platform created by the State Interest and Governance Authority, SIGA, in collaboration with the Ministry of Information yesterday. I'm sure this is good news for us. What do you make of it?
Absolutely. Indeed, this is what I was saying. You see, when you push local content so well, it has benefits to all stakeholders. It's not just the indigenous Ghanaian. Everyone, the state benefits, the state has its own benefits, the companies themselves. And this is one area where the company is priding itself for the benefit, the savings that it has made, simply by also ensuring that local content is pushed to the fore. $3 million is not a joke for a company to save. And it is the reason why all of us, indeed all stakeholders, not just government, all stakeholders must ensure that our hands are on there and push this so well. But like I said earlier, the bottom line is building local capacity. If you do not build a quality local capacity, no amount of law can change what is wrong. No amount of law. And really, because if you push these companies so hard and they do not have any replacement, if it is human resources, because that's one area of local content. If it is just human resources and there's no one to take over, either from the managerial point of view or from the technical point of view, you'll be doing much about nothing, really. And you cannot leave the training, the capacity building to the companies, to the multinational companies to do without stakeholder involvement, i.e. government and indeed all other persons who ought to contribute to ensuring that the companies are also building capacity. Because if you notice, what we do a structured means of local content. So, and we leave the bulk of the responsibility on the company. If we do it that way, without any external supervision and simply giving timelines, the companies would always bring you excuses. And with these excuses, you will never make any headway. So I'm calling for a robust way of ensuring this, because this $3 million could have probably been more.
All right.
Could have been more.
Justice Abdullahi, I'm grateful that you found time to join us on our show this morning. Thank you, sir.
Indeed, for God and country.
He is a lawyer and law lecturer at the University for Professional Studies, UPSA.
November 2022, the labor unions wrote to government requesting for more than 100% increment in their base pay for the 2023 working year. The unions cited mainly the increased cost of living as justification for their demand. After 2 meetings, Labour was willing to bend.
Government progressed to 18. We also progressed to 65.
We've never been difficult. We've been considerate for years, and many things have gone wrong. So I think that is the time to right the wrongs. The single pay salary structure is the most indecent structure in this very country. We will never take anything below the 60%. We are not representing ourselves. We are representing our constituents. And we have to go back and inform our members who sent us to negotiate for them.
Currently, the labor unions have reduced their percentage margin to 50%. Government, which started its negotiation with an initial offer of 8%, agreed to increase the base pay to 18%.
Unfortunately, we have had to table something anytime we have met. But Labour insists on a figure. So we are going back and we'll reconvene.
But Labour has rejected that offer and is asking for more.
Government says they are going to consult. We also stated that we're going to meet our constituents and then we also give them feedback.
At its latest meeting, both parties agreed to bring finality to their negotiations. Here is Deputy Labour Minister Bright Rekubrobe.
We have both decided to come tomorrow to conclude on our negotiations. So tomorrow, God willing, we will share any information. Anywhere we have reached, we will let you know.
Sources close to both parties indicate that government is willing to step up its offer to 20%, whereas the labour unions are making fresh demand for 50% increment in their base pay. For JoyNews, Michael Ashale.
All right, so welcome back to the show. It's now time for us to go into the discussions for the day. We're talking about base pay this morning, but I've been joined by my colleague Bernice Lansah. Oh, this lady is awesome.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
You don't want me to go on?
No. Good morning to you. And thank you for joining us every morning to do this. We're super grateful for your time. And my colleague Michael Ashale, who brought us the reports that we just had, has more details on the meetings. You know, this started since last year, and we know how Labour has been very determined to get what it wants. And we were told this was the 9th. Apparently, there was another meeting yesterday. The report you had was one done on Tuesday. We were told there will be a meeting today. So Michael joins us to give us the details. Hello, Michael. Good morning to you. What more should we know about these negotiations for base pay?
So, Bernice, you already mentioned that this series of meetings didn't start now. It started sometime last year. Yesterday's meeting would be the 9th time that both parties, that is the labor unions and government, have been meeting over this. So when it all started, the labor union said they were looking at the cost of living, and at the time, inflation was skyrocketing. Again, they had to buy fuel at exorbitant prices. So they settled to ask government to pay them 140% increment on their base pay. And not forgetting that they were already enjoying COLA. The difference between these two is that for COLA, which is cost of living allowance, it was just an allowance that was paid on their salaries. So in comparison to this, that is quite small now. And a change in their base pay would effectively mean that every other allowance they also enjoy will effectively also go up. So they're asking for 140% increment in that. Now, meetings down the line, we've had Labour's position changed several times. So from 140%, they now came to 100%. They now again settled for 60%. At the time, they said they were not going to change their mind from there because they have come way too far, from 140 to 60%, trying to meet government at least halfway. But again, that has changed in the last minute, and I'll come back to that. But for government, it will be a very tough moment for them. Arguably, it will be their biggest or hardest negotiations they've had to go through. So government started at 8%, it's the initial offer, whereas the labor unions wanted 140, stark difference. But they managed to come up here. But before I continue with the government offering, just to give you about a bit of background on what government have been able to offer them in the past years. So in 2 years ago, government gave them 4%. Last year, they got an increment for the 2022 working year. Government gave them 7% increment, and that's after months of negotiation. So government hasn't really been able to go way too far. This time round, it said 8 initially. Then that position also changed after labor unions also relaxed on the 140. The last meeting that they had, what I heard was 18%. So that was the last offer government made. Now, in that particular meeting, it was on the same day that inflation for November came out in December. In the middle of December, November inflation came out. And that was around 40%, if I'm not mistaken. So 40%, and on that day, labor unions were not happy about the negotiations. They felt that government was not giving them enough. So they had changed their position from 60% to 68%. they had increased their demand. But government pleaded with them. Eventually, they settled for 58% again. What I heard from the last two meetings was 50%. These are from our sources within both parties, that Labour is now going to probably settle for 50%, and government will decide to give them 20%. Their offer will be 20%. But Labour already rejected that offer. In yesterday's meeting, which we were promised was going to be the last, and this was Bright Rakupobi, the Deputy Minister for Labour and Employment, in his words that the meetings was expected to come to a conclusion yesterday, but that did not happen. Yesterday's meeting, unlike any other day, it broke into several caucus meetings. Government side would start once in a while, leave the meeting, try and go and Jojo and see whether they can bend to the asking of the labor unions. The labor unions will also do the same. Even though it's a closed door meetings, once in a while when the door is open, you would hear words like, we will not accept it. We'll stand our grounds. We are not children. We are here for what we deserve. So these are words that you hear from labor once in a while. Yesterday's meeting dragged on for more than 5 hours. And eventually what we heard, well, again, you've heard from some of them. They are not going to talk to us officially because there's another meeting today which they're hoping will be the final meeting. But I doubt that. So yesterday, what our sources will continue to tell us that the cost of living allowance has already been paid to them, which is COLA, was supposed to have ended in December. However, unofficially, government has not decided to stop paying it. That, of a sort, took over the meeting, took center stage, and most of the conversation was centered around that. Do we stop paying? Do we continue paying? What we understand is that government has decided to pay at least for January the cost of living allowance. Subsequently, for February going, it will stop paying. However, it will pay what it is yet to label 15% to the labor unions in the interim whilst they continue. That their decision to pay the 15% will be in good faith, so that you don't get what sometimes happens in the past, that when government fails to heed to the demands of these labor unions, then they decide to go on industrial action. So government wants to avoid that. So they want to pay them 50% from February going forward in good faith. However, the labor unions they don't want that conversation to start at all. They feel that will be an insult to them. Even where they have started from and where they have ended, it is nothing close to even the last offering of government, which was 20%.
So Michael, this 15%, what is it for? Because you tell us that the COLA will be stopped by end of January. So 15% for what?
So it's more like we have ended COLA. We are giving you something like COLA, just so that you can, hold on to this for a while. But no label yet. It will not be called COLA. But it is somewhat like COLA, that let's cushion you in the interim, because the prevailing circumstances that you mentioned, reasons you mentioned in 2022 continue to persist. And that is the cost of living that has skyrocketed in the last 5 months. So we'll give you that to cushion you for now, but we won't call it COLA. That's what we try to gather, that it won't be called COLA, because COLA officially should have ended in 2022. So if we want to give you this, it is in good faith, so that you don't decide to go on an industrial action. It tells you that government is committed to, doing something about your salary. But again, we are not sure whether this 15% is going to be calculated on their base pay, or will be just given to them as an allowance. That is not something that we managed to gather here, but there's a 15% government is willing to pay somewhere from February going forward. But coming to today's meeting, if you ask me whether there's going to be finality, I highly doubt that. Why am I saying that? Labour says it will not step down from the 50, and the 50 will be its last, which is unofficial, but it won't go beyond the 50. Government's last offer was 20. If for nothing at all, government should be appreciating before labor unions will do that. If you look at the pace at which government has also appreciated in the last 9 meetings, it will be very difficult. And you've heard sometimes even in some of the meetings, some of the members asking for the finance minister himself to rather be in the meeting. To tell you what, I've been following some of these labor negotiations over some time, and not necessarily because of the base pay, but more often than not, they find it in good faith that the finance minister himself is there. You hear sometimes comments that the deputy ministers that come for the meeting go back to say that they don't have the mandate to agree to the terms that the labor unions are dictating to them or sometimes asking from them. So they prefer that the finance minister himself is in the meeting. And it's the same thing that has spanned on this particular meeting. They have always asked rather for the finance minister who can agree on the spot or disagree or tell them the true state of Ghana's economy for them to appreciate it. Other than that, it will only be, this is what we want, government to say that this is all we can give you. And even for that, we cannot say that that is exactly what we can agree on. We still need the permission from the finance minister, who knows exactly how much government has and can pay to you. So if you don't find the finance minister there, you don't find the labor union smiling that much. They only come for the meeting, knowing perfectly well that it won't go anywhere without the finance minister. So today, they are hoping that the finance minister himself will come. Other than that, I don't see this conversation ending anytime soon. Yesterday was a promise that it would have ended from the Deputy Minister for Labour and Employment, but that did not happen. In fact, there was no offer was given yesterday. So it will be tight. It will be difficult to say that the labour negotiations will end today.
But have you picked any indication from Labour itself as to their reaction to this delay and what they intend doing to force government to really compromise on its stance?
So you pick up bits of an industrial action is available to us. A strike is available to us. So particularly for yesterday, you hear some of them, most of them, unlike ever before, left without uttering a single word. The day before that, which was on Tuesday, you hear some of them, come out chit-chatting, some of them smiling. But yesterday's meeting was very different. Many of them came out lip tight, no smiling, and even for government, which is very unusual, did not utter a single word. So it's a bit tense at this moment in time. And like I've been hearing from some of them, an industrial action is not far from where we stand as it is. But again, they also know the repercussions of an industrial action on Ghana's circumstances currently. We are the IMF. Again, inflation doesn't seem to stop. For December, it's over 50%. So for them, they understand the difficult decision that we'll have to take at the end of the day. But as to whether government will allow them or will let them get to that point as well, it's a different situation. So Brace is tight. It's very difficult as it stands now. Okay.
But what was their last, the percentage in terms of which they want government to increase the base pay? What was the last time? Because they moved from 140 to 100 to 60. What was the last one they're asking for?
Yes, so they haven't given any figure. Now, again, the 50%, what our sources tell us, the last official figure they gave us was 58%, 58%. And the last official figure we got from government was 18%. But our sources tell us that both parties are willing to change that. So from 58, Labour is willing to come to 50, and government is willing to come to 20%. Those were the figures we found from our sources.
Okay.
Right, Michael, we'll leave it here. And Michael Ashali just gave us details of what to expect in that meeting between government and Labour over base pay negotiations. And we'll keenly be monitoring the event and bring you the details as and when they are available. But like I was saying earlier before Michael came in, Labour has been very forceful. Labour has been very strong. Even talking about the debt restructuring and how Labour kicked against government touching pensions and we saw how they were able to pull the strings and win in the end. So we'll see how this goes. Again, I remember sometime last year, the Employment Ministry expressed a bit of frustration about these negotiations with Labour. We've been joined by Labour expert Austin Game. Good morning to you, sir, and thank you for joining the program. Let's start off with how long this has dragged and the potential to affect government business, because we know these meetings are held consistently. They've been trying to reach an agreement, but they've not been able to do so.
Thank you. Well, I'm not surprised because, first of all, let me say that a lot of the people, the working people, like the nurses, like a number of them, I work for them as a consultant. So I'm not a stranger entirely to whatever is going on, except that I'm not physically present at these meetings. Now, let me say this. Traditionally, in Ghana, we don't pay working people based on productivity. We pay based on inflation, cost of living, and appearance at the workplace. Because this is the tradition we have, it's always a positional negotiation. That is to say that labor may make a demand, management may want to pay whatever they think is fitting, and so it's positional. You move, I move until they either are on strike or somebody from behind the scene appealed to conscience and then they give in. So we are not the type of nation, even strangely, private sectors pay based upon inflation, cost of living, and so forth and so on. But our labor law enjoins us to pay matching the remuneration with productivity. That way, the workers are likely to get more, and the employer is likely to have more. Nobody will be losing. Unfortunately, that is not the situation we find ourselves in. Even though clearly our labor law enjoins us to negotiate based on interest and not position. Well, this is the way we have lived with it all these years. Again, strangely, even private sectors, strangely, except one or two that are paying based on productivity, and they share information. They share detailed information. The government people, they just go to the meeting, and information that is shared is very scanty. And so they cannot be able to empathize with them the way they wish they could. And therefore, labor is unable to yield to the kind of lamentation sometimes the employers, come up with. So it's most unfortunate we are in this condition, but because that is the way we have chosen to do, and that's how they teach it even in the schools. They teach the professionals how to bargain and not negotiation. So we are bargaining, as if you are in Makola and you ask for something and you ask for reduction, and then they are moving. That's very strange, but that's what we do in this country.
So Mr. Game, if I get you clearly, if we are going to practice what is in the books, what it will mean is that even in hard times like we find ourselves, if there's only going to be any major adjustment to salaries or base pay or allowances, it will be because you are giving your employer some good results in terms of productivity and not necessarily because the times are hard.
Definitely. I mean, paying for people putting in appearance at the workplace, it's a bizarre situation in which you find ourselves. Our labor law forbids that. But because people are not truthful, let me give you a very simple example. If you yourself sitting there on the seat, you and your husband in your home,
Your husband, you definitely know because you share information that your husband earns 10,000 Ghana cedis a month. And then you have put in a budget of 11,500 Ghana cedis as your chop money. How reasonable is that? It's just not going to happen. And therefore, we expect that your husband will share detailed information with you. And so, together with you, you sit around the table. Based on that information, the interest of the house, the interest of the children, the interest of everything, your medication and everything will be taken into consideration. For now, that is not what we do in this country. What we do is, I come with a bowl and I ask, pour it in it for me, whether you have it or not. Where it is impossible, then we take, adversarial approach to the whole thing. So unfortunately, that's how it is. But our labor law is very clear in Section 97, very clear in 98, Section G, match remuneration with productivity. That way, the workers will get more. That way, the employer will get more. Nobody will feel any pinch of anything. Unfortunately, that's not how you do it.
It's interesting, the scenario you cited. But how about look at it this way? Because from the point of labor, and even in times past, labor has said, look, you say there's no money, but we see you pump money into other sectors that we think that we deserve most. So in the scenario you just cited, say a husband earns 10,000 cedis, but gives 5,000 towards maybe football activities with his friends and gives 3,000 to his wife, who in this case is the worker. And then the wife says, I think I deserve more. Can you cut the 5,000 you're giving to the football activities so that you can give me some more? Is that not a representation of what we're seeing?
Well, unfortunately, that is a marriage of convenience. That's not a true marriage. A true marriage, your husband will share detailed information. He's an honest man anyway. So therefore, that will not happen in a circumstance where it's a proper marriage. If it's marriage by convenience, fine. If it's just girlfriend, boyfriend, maybe you suffer that. If it's just some common law type of marriage where people are living because of accommodation and so forth, and so those things can happen. But a genuine husband will share detailed information. Now, that's how employers ought to be. The law, even the law, is very clear. It's not based upon ethics. It's based upon reality. That is what the law enjoins us to do. And I can tell you on authority that I work as a consultant for companies, and we do just that. We share detailed information with unions. Unions that you can describe as very tough negotiators. Because we share detailed information, they empathize. It takes us sometimes 2 hours to complete negotiation. Sometimes maximum 1 day to complete negotiation. But you are negotiating 7, 8, 9 times of meeting. The cost of even the meeting is very high. So it's about sharing detailed information. This happened before in 2014, thereabout, when it became very, very difficult for the country. The former president took the entire labor union leadership, plus UTAG and all the people that matters, everybody. I was present at home, and we shared detailed information. The Minister for Finance, Mr. Setekpe, presented PowerPoint presentation. Halfway into the presentation, everybody changed his mind. That's how come the manner in which they ended up, maybe with IMF the last time, wasn't acrimonious as we are seeing today. So I think that is very important that information in detail is shared. Let people trust and have confidence in you. When you get to table, because you have shared this detailed information, the basis for the negotiation will be an interest approach and not positional. This one is positional. I'm coming for 100%. I brought it down to 58. I go back to 65. I come down to 50. Clearly, I know this is how the movement will be. And if you have movement like this, you end up with Labour Commission. What do you expect the Labour Commission to do? The Labour Commission is not in charge of the purse. They will ask you what you can afford based upon information that is available. So I think that we have to change our posture. Strangely, even the private sector is like that.
Mr. Game, another thing which is quite disturbing about what you've raised so far is how we are more or less practicing an illegality because the law says otherwise, but we are not doing it. At the heart of this is our ability to measure productivity. I remember speaking to the head of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and that came up. How do we realistically measure productivity? Because in this case, like you say, government is even in a tight corner, because if you say you're going to do what is in the books, how do you even measure the productivity in the first place? What can we do in that regard to ensure that what the law says is what we are practicing?
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. The point is that I've heard many people talking about, in a cheap way, talking about how can it be measured? It cannot be measured. It's subjective. It's so and so. It's all waste of time and energy. It can be done. It can be done. And it can be done, I would not like to use the word simpler per se, but it can be done reasonably easily. It is because people lack knowledge and the capacity to do it. It doesn't mean it cannot be done. There are people who are capable of doing it. Even people are inviting people from Ghana here to Nigeria to assist them to do it. So please, it's doable. That's why we put it in the law. It's doable.
So how do we do it? What are the mechanisms? How do we realistically ensure that we are measuring the productivity of workers?
Look, as you are sitting on the set right now, you have specific assigned roles you have to play in your organization there. And after doing what you are doing now, you are supposed to do other things and submit other reports and so forth and so on. That way, I believe the strategy of your employer is to ensure that when you contribute your quota, your other colleagues contribute their quota, you get more advertisement, you get more attention, your station becomes the preferred station, and therefore your income is enhanced, therefore your pay can be enhanced, and the quota is very clear, very, very clear. If your employer would do that, and it must begin from our schools, they must train the people, the lecturers themselves must have adequate and sufficient capability of teaching that, and after that, people must be skilled enough to be able to translate into an actionable thing. It's not a talking shop business. It's not an economic issue to go and hide behind numbers. It's about translating human resource management practitioners have the capacity to do it. And I've been talking to my friends and colleagues in the fraternity all the time that we are creating problem for nothing. The point is that our law is very clear that we must match remuneration. The word is matching remuneration with productivity. You have to detail it down, train your heads of departments and those who will be collecting the data and doing the appraisal. And where people have conversation one-on-one, you and I sat and we have conversation, we documented the thing. The thing we document is the very thing we will use for the appraisal. And so there is nothing called subjectivity. There's nothing like looking at your face because you are from this region, because you belong to this, because you belong to this church. Therefore, you get A, somebody gets B and C. No, it must be done properly. And once it is done, and it can be done, I want to assure you of that, because we do it in other companies. I can't mention them on your set, but we do it, and it's doable. And the law is very, very clear. There is no ambiguity in it. It's because people lack the knowledge, understanding, and the skill to be able to actionalize it. That's why we are having a problem.
Well, Mr. Game, Kojo Brace here. So, like you're saying, we should match remuneration to productivity. Whose responsibility is it to ensure that that is done?
The employer principally is number one. But you have social partners, the unions. Even if they are not unionized, you have working people. You must sit with them, have regard for them, be honest and open to them. And the law, again, in Section 9, very clear. It says the employer must be open in every aspect of their dealings with the working people. That's what our law says. It's not an ethics business. It is clear-cut HR and industrial relations practice. You must be open in an honest approach to these things. Once you are honest, your people, your working people will be honest with you. But if you pretend and you are sharing numbers that are untrue, like we said earlier with my sister, that if the husband is earning 10,000 and the husband now declares 7,000 because he wants to hide 3,000 to go and share with his child, side chicks and go and drink with his friends in some ghetto, clearly she will be angry, and that marriage will not even last. It's the same principle. If you come to the workplace, you as an employer, you must learn you are a father to everybody in the house there. And therefore you must be honest and open and share information as the law requires. If you don't want to be very, very, very sensitive to this type of things, then go by the law under Section 97 and share the information in detail. And nobody will feel bad about it. And we do it in companies that we negotiate for not more than a day. Very sensitive organizations in Ghana here, we do the same thing. And so it's an excuse. And I can tell you far back, I joined with the Public Services Commission. We detailed these things down completely. They have the documents there. It can be done. And I don't know the reason why they are finding it difficult to do. And our labor unions are not insensitive. If you engage them and you sit with them and you want to pay based on productivity, they will sit with you and do it. That's the point.
Well, interesting. But it looks like we've been in this for quite some time. I mean, Labour and government have been going back and forth on this since last year. And we are in a gridlock now. We don't know when the end is going to come. So with your knowledge of, negotiation and how things like remuneration should be, what do you expect both parties to do so that there could be an end in sight?
Well, two things will happen. One, this will have to call for some kind of facilitated mediation, not traditional mediation approach, but a facilitated one properly. The Labour Commission can be able to do it. They can also choose to engage the services of private facilitated mediators who have the capacity to lead in this kind of interest-based approach type of negotiation. I believe that it can be done. There may be people in the country, other than myself, who can lead them. But if I am called upon, that's why I'm not at the meeting, because I feel betrayed that I'll go to that meeting. I already know even what to say because of the toxic nature of how we have, kept this thing going on and never wanting to change. It must begin right from our investors. They have to change the methodology of teaching these things, because the law is very clear. You can't teach anything contrary to this principle. If you teach anything contrary to this principle, the result you are getting is what you will get.
Okay.
The result you are getting is what you will get. And what you are getting is positional negotiation. I come in with 100%, 140% demand. I will give you 5%. And you are moving. What it means is that you are not honest. Both parties are dishonest, because why did you ask for something and you are changing your mouth? Sit with your partner, share information, and what is locked in is what is locked in. Both of you will accept it in no time. But this kind of acrimonious type of negotiation is a very bizarre thing, and I don't see them being able, except one to be generous by way of saying that, okay, we are tired of it, we'll accept it. So they'll have to find a way of packaging what is appropriate, and the language is what is appropriate, and not what I want or what you want to give. That way, and next year we'll repeat the same thing again, because we don't learn. So we have to change our ways. I hope any whether it is MPP government coming, whether it is NDC coming, whichever way it is, I hope they've all learned lessons and they will never repeat this kind of thing again.
Finally, from me, Mr. Game, you say that next year this will repeat. Aren't we doing this too often than normal, these government-labor negotiations? And what is the proper practice? How often should negotiations be done?
Immediately they finish this negotiation, if I were to be the employer, and all employers are listening to you, they must learn to learn how to go about what the law says. Section 97 is very clear, Section 9 is very clear, Section 98 is very clear, and they are expected to have cardinal rules that will govern the principles of the negotiation. Under Section 101, subsection 3 is very clear. And I recall that a draft of these rules was done for them, and so they have the rules. They must go by the rules that govern the principle of the negotiation. And another point I've heard you said on your program is that the people who are the decision makers, who are supposed to be at the meeting, and somebody will not say that we don't have the mandate and we're not present. You must be present because the Standing Negotiating Committee is higher than any other board of directors. And so if you are going to make a decision, you must properly share information. Everybody is on the same page. You don't come singing from a different Methodist hymn book, somebody singing from an Aladura hymn book. The same hymn book everybody is singing from because you have shared information. But in this circumstance, it's like everybody is doing something that is different. And so we are not going to reach any agreement anytime soon. Next year, they must get people to train them and to guide them so that they don't go repeating this same thing again. Because repetition doesn't speak well of anybody. I can't make mistake and repeat the same mistake time and time again.
Well, you speak of the fact that we negotiate on interests and not positions. From the way things are going, do you foresee that changing for the parties to now negotiate on interest and not positions as you alluded to earlier?
Because they haven't shared detailed information, in these circumstances it will be difficult. Look, like I said, I have insisted all employers that I'm a consultant to, I said, let's share information. Because I can't go and disgrace myself at a meeting where we put in a bid by saying that, well, we'll pay you 5%. Apparently, we intend paying 15%. So was I lying? Was I dishonest? Was I open to my working people? So share information. That's how we concluded that fateful day in Ho, when the former government was willing to do that. They shared detailed information. And I heard loudly the Union Secretary General said, oh, why have you delayed in sharing this information? I heard UTAC saying, let's close down the meeting, let's go to caucus. When they returned, they said, everybody, let's leave them. These things that have been shared for us is very clear enough. Everything. So you can't waste money. You can't go and engage in some projects that may not be helpful. The people will tell you that, no, this project can delay. They can tell you so. And so it is very important that we share information. If you have debt to pay, what is the amortization period? All these details are shared. And I can tell you we share it in every private companies that are willing to do it. We share it. And because we share this detailed information, including the amortization period of how to retire our indebtedness, the unions are willing because they want job security. They want income security. They want assurance of retaining their status in the business. And training is done for them. Promotion is given to them where it is due. But when you are doing the thing by looking at people's faces and so on, they will tell you you are being subjective. I want to urge your station you can make it a point. I'll be willing to come and we share it, both private, and then we can see that you can see clearly that it can be done. Can be done and can be done easily if you like. I'll add that word for it to it for you.
Right.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Our colleague, our reporter on the ground, told us earlier that government has decided to pay some 15%. As COLA is going to end this month, they would begin to pay some 15% for the workers, but they don't know the name that we don't know as of yet, the name they are going to call it. Is that a normal practice when, because we have not finished negotiation, we say we're going to pay some percentage to make up for the changes in the economy or your expenditure?
Well, they will create problem for themselves if they do that. Look, the law is very clear. Section 9, subsection G of Labor Act 2003 as 651 is very clear. It says the employer must have an open channels, plural, of communication with his people. That's what the law says. Fortunately for you, I was the chairman of the committee that drafted the law. So I'm not speaking from an unknown position. It took us 4 years to write the law. To be very honest with you, we are not implementing even 1/4 of the law yet. If we are doing that, we won't sit where we are sitting now talking about this thing as if it's not been done before. What is this? So if you are going to pay something, you don't know the title for the thing, give it a title, be open to them and let them appreciate what you are saying. It's about an appreciative approach. If people don't appreciate something, they will tell you, well, we'll hold it, but that is not what we want. And to become foolish money, you are paying. So please, what they have to do is, do they have a 15%? If they have that 15% and they want to pay it as part of the package, then they should tell them, example, we are paying you 20% or 25%. We will pay you 15% as COLA. This cost of living adjustment allowance was introduced as far back as 1984. I fought part of the team that came to Accra to negotiate with Dr. Dodo at the time. Dr. Mbia led us from the TUC. And so clearly it's not something new. As far back as 1984, when there was this devastating fire outbreak and our people were being pushed from Nigeria to Ghana, 1 million people who were new in the revolution, and the inflation had galloped to about 123% or so, we demanded payment of COLA. That was how it was introduced. I myself, I was part of the district union that came to Accra to negotiate it. So clearly, it's nothing new that is being done. Now we have a labor law that has made it easier for us to negotiate. We are making it as if we don't have people that can guide us. I'm really ashamed of it anyway. But what else can we do? So if they have something to pay, they should open up, and be frank and honest with them. They will obey. The TUC and organized labor people are not insensitive. They will listen to them, and once they have assurance that, no, this is a very honest and open communication that is going on, they will yield to it. They will yield to it. But when you hide it, like the haircutting that is going on now, it's the same principle. They will resist it. If you open up, it will be a different story. We have to open up.
Okay.
This is our country. We need to protect the interests of the country. And so everybody must be willing to support. But if you don't open up, and I'm referring you to 2014, when it became very critical, the same situation. We're using almost 68 to 70% of the national income to paying just 2 or 3 items. And the former president, took the whole people to Ho, and we sat there for 3 days. When we shared the detailed information, that was the end of it. At the time, UTAG was on strike. Some people were on strike. The unions were threatening. After the meeting, that ended it. Before we ended up in Senchi, before we ended up at Takwade, before the IMF. There was no acrimony in the country. It can be done. This is our own country. We must support the president and his team to be able to do it, but they must open up.
Okay. So you think this is what will make them, make their parties change from the entrenched positions they've all taken, right?
Because we pay, right now, we pay inflation, we pay cost of living, that is what we pay. That thing is meant to be able to determine the national daily minimum wage only. Where because we have projected an inflation X and we ended up actual being AD, when we get to the meeting, we do a restoration of what actually we projected and what the outcome happened to be. So out of that, we do a restoration. Plus and minus cost of living, we then round it up and say this is now the national daily minimum wage. That is what is intended to achieve. But when it comes to paying people, it must be based upon productivity. Because we don't practice that and we are paying inflation, what is the inflation today? It's about 50-something.
Yeah,
54.1.
54.1.
So pay the inflation now. If that is the character of our teaching methodology in our schools, and that's what we practice in our ministries of finance and so forth and so on, then pay the inflation. You see now where we are lost? We are supposed to be paying based upon productivity. Matching remuneration. Remuneration goes beyond base pay. It's the entirety of the cost of the business, of labor. So what is it? We don't know. How much money did government get? We must know in total, including grants, and all those details were shared in 2014. The Minister of Finance, you can ask the Tekpa, he will tell you the details. And I have it too. Detailed in PowerPoint. Because it was shared, the unions were not insensitive. They yielded to it. And I believe in the present government, they can be able to do it. We have very notable people. They should be able to do it. If they cannot do it, we are 14 million adults in this country, including me. They can invite us. We can all sit there and talk. There's nothing like these people belong to this or these people belong to this. Me, I'm a consultant. I don't belong to any political party. So if you ask me, I'll show you the direction you should go.
Really appreciate your time this morning. Mr. Austin Gami is a labor consultant, and he has been sharing his expertise with us on what we can do to resolve this matter, and most importantly, how we can get to practicing what the books say. That is focusing on what is legally approved when it comes to negotiations for salaries in this country. Well, thank you so much for staying on the show. Let's just zoom into that conversation about our latest inflation figures for December 2022. And we've been joined by government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobna-Enim. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us this morning. I remember the last time we had you in here, and Benjamin and yourself were discussing our inflation figures and other related matters. There was some hope, especially going to the end of the year, coming into 2023, but it looks like we've hit another record high. What exactly is contributing to this?
To all listeners, indeed, when I engaged Benjamin, we explored a number of issues, and we still remain on the track of optimism going forward. But it's important we try and define or put into context what the optimism is. So the release that we did yesterday, we keep in mind that the 54.1% is a year-on-year inflation. What that means is that we're comparing December 2021 with December 2022. So all the economic impacts that we see currently, that is in the last 2 months, that is issues around exchange rate, issues around the staff level agreement, being argued that it is influencing expectation and all that, would only be seen from the perspective of month-on-month inflation. And we would all recall that since September, our month-on-month inflation went up from 2.0 to 2.7 in October 2022. And then in November 2022, it further went up from 2.7 to 8.6. And now we're seeing a month-on-month inflation dropping from an 8% rate to a 3.8 rate. So from a month-on-month basis, we see that there is about a half of the rates that we recorded in November 2022. And this is what I mean by we're still on the track on optimism, but we need to make a distinction between what you are comparing. If you are comparing it with last year, then all the gains that we are seeing in the last couple of months will not be reflected until another couple of months.
Oh, okay. That's interesting and a very important clarification. So for those who were concerned that, okay, the cedi was performing better and that translated into a reduction in transport fares, this explains it for you that this is a year-on-year inflation figure. But based on your own assessment and when you step out to gather data, do you see a true reflection of what the impact of the cedi's depreciation in December was?
Yes, we do see it from, I'm using the collective word, we do see it from a service point of view, from a number of perspectives. And one is, yes, prices are reducing, but in what areas are we seeing the price changes? It is important to always move away from the aggregate figure. 54.1% is the national figure, but anytime we do the release, we disaggregate it from food and non-food perspective, and also from a locally produced items and imported items perspective. From my point of view, these are very high aggregates for which any conversation should be held. The real conversation starts with when you further disaggregate it at the 13 division level and you further go down to the subclass level. So what we realize at the 13 division level is that housing, water, electricity, and gas and other fuels recorded the highest rate of inflation of 82.34%. But in food and non-alcoholic beverages, which is one of the 5 items that recorded highest inflation in December 2022, had a rate slightly higher than the national average of 54.1%. This is where we always introduce the issue of weight. Although food inflation recorded a rate much lower than housing, water, electricity, and gas, because food and non-alcoholic beverages has a weight of 43.7 out of 100%, it really pushed its contribution to about 47.5% of the 54.1 inflation that we recorded. So yes, we are beginning to see decreases across different commodities, but it's always important we keep in mind that there are 307 items in the basket for the computation, and these 307 items have different weights. So if you are seeing decreases in what I call the wrong direction, then you're not going to see its impact occurring. Then within food, we do it at the subclass level, and also we see things like vegetables and juices recording very high rates. Bus and trotro fares, as you indicated, at the 307 item level has the highest rate of 5.8. So if we see decreases at the pump in terms of diesel and petrol, and it does not translate quickly to reductions in bus and trotro fares, or only contributes marginally in terms of decrease in bus and trotro fares, then that impact will not be felt. So the 2 points that I'm putting across is in what dimensions are we seeing the changes, and whether those dimensions are the items that have the highest weight, and the extent to which, if you move to the different stages of reduction, we are carrying on those reductions further down.
Interesting. We are almost approaching the middle of January. I don't know if you've already started your data collection, but what are the figures pointing to, if you've started your data collection already for January?
We have started the data collection for January, and let me indicate that we collect data for the month predominantly in the first week of the month, and it spills over sometimes to the second week. But definitely by the end of the second week of the month, we would have finished data collection representative for the month. Once the data is collected, and keep in mind that the data is collected from all our 16 administrative regions, and indeed from 8,337 outlets. So the processing occurs between the 3rd week and the 4th week of the month. And that is what we're going to start from the 16th of this month, that is from Monday. And then by then we'll begin to see whether we are still around the 54.1% and what is contributing to that or not. So unfortunately, I will not be able to indicate what the directions are for now.
Doc, Kojo Bernice here, but from the way things are, and from, I'm sure you are experiencing this, how fuel prices went down, how transport fares went down, is it likely, or is there the likelihood that we'll see it reflecting on how the inflation rate will be when you do the next data analysis?
This is very interesting. So now you are looking at it from a one commodity point of view, and that is what we try to avoid. You are absolutely right. Diesel has gone down, petrol has gone down, bus truck fares have gone down. Let's also keep in mind that we are dealing with people who are responding to diverse expectations. So in as much as these real sectors are showing reduction, what we always have to keep in mind is our response as persons in Ghana, be it sellers, be it consumers, because what we've seen over the last 6 months is significant price variations for same items within the same geographical area. And this is something that we keep on putting to the government, that we need to begin to think about how we can address issues of expectations and issues of behavior, both from the consumer point of view and from the seller's point of view. So although these things are increasing, with all the things that is happening in the economy, let's keep an eye on how people are going to respond. Until we are able to place a figure on that, we will not be able to say that because diesel alone is going down, bus and total fares are going down, then we should also think that we should hurry and say that inflation has peaked and we're going to see a reduction of this percentage. But let's also have in mind that other commodities, even around this time, keep increasing. Yesterday during the release, we put out one thing. Of the 307 items that we have in the basket, we identified 147 items that in December 2022 recorded price variations higher than 54.1%.
What could be accounting for that? You know, because to the layperson, when things like fuel, transport fares are coming down, like all of us were saying, we expect the corresponding effect on the cost of goods and services. But if it doesn't happen, we would want to know what account for that. How can the gains here reflect in the generality of price of goods and services?
So there's one thing that I'm pretty sure we don't know as a country, because it's the responsibility of Ghana Statistical Service, and the conversation has started. And this is what we call the build-up cost. And what this simply means is that you look at it from two perspectives. If you are thinking about locally produced items, what is the build-up cost right from the farm gate to the final consumer? Until we start producing statistics on that, we wouldn't be able to identify at which stage within the value chain that does not respond or respond partially to any reduction that we are seeing. So a typical example, if we are seeing price reductions at the pumps, and it takes X number of time for bus and trotro fares to go down, and there is another factor that comes in to affect bus and trotro fares, like spare parts, and imports are also going up, wouldn't be able to determine the exact effect that the drop in the prices at the pumps would impact eventually on, let's say, the plantain that has to be transported from one geographical area to another place. So we really need to get into identifying, we all know the value chain, but identifying the build-up cost for the different stages that we go through between the farm gate and the consumer. The same applies to imported items. We don't know the build-up cost for all the imported items when they get to our ports, and also when finally it gets to our final consumer. So these are the details that one would have to use or obtain to pretty appreciate the extent to which, at the primary level, if something changes, it would eventually affect what the consumer gets. So going forward, we are working closely with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, because They collect prices, wholesale prices at the farm gate. They collect transport prices. And we believe that this collaboration would help us get closer to identifying the build-up cost.
Well, so you said that there's something that you're doing about this. When do we expect this to come into force, so that as an ordinary person, I can then, or a business person, I can calculate to know that, okay, this is what will be the cost of doing business in Ghana because of how the inflation and the things that contribute to it are running?
So, two things. One is that from the personal point of view, we have put on our website this personal inflation calculator that you can go there either as a business person or as an individual to get a sense of how your basket responds to the price changes that we're currently experiencing in the country. But from an institutional point of view, as I indicated, we've started a conversation. We've already built a dashboard with exchange data between the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and Ghana Statistical Service. What we have to get running is how the two institutions would agree on an MOU in terms of the regularity of sharing the data and the cleaning of the data, which is critical because one is wholesale data, one is retail data, and one is consumer data. Traditionally, we've used different markets in doing this exercise. So there's a lot of groundwork that would have to be done to be able to merge the two or three data points, that is the wholesale, the retail, the transport, and the consumer data, to help understand the build-up. So we're currently working with a period of about 3 to 6 months to iron out the working arrangements. Then the technical team will get running. So we're giving ourselves about 3 to 6 months.
But if I want to know how my personal inflation will be, I should just go onto your website and I could do that, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, so for we're looking forward to you coming out with that inflation for you to then know whether what happened in December will reflect. When should we look forward to that one so that we can come back to have a discussion?
So let's sequence the expectation. And why we say that is between now and the 6 months that I talked about, a number of indicators would have to be put out for all of us to appreciate where we are headed. And I've told you where we are headed. Ultimately, we want to know the build-up cost. So from the import point of view, one of the things that we want to do quickly is to work closely with the Ministry of Trade and Industry. We're hoping that we will not have any bureaucracies, any institutional challenges, and begin to look at our import data more carefully from an item point of view, and then hopefully by the end of February, put the first publication out for our imports as a country. That publication would possibly have the header, our trade vulnerabilities in this country in terms of which commodities we import from single countries and which commodities we import from multiple countries, and how important are these commodities to the structure of the Ghanaian economy. Once we are able to do that, it means we've reached or we've covered the first hurdle, which has to do with the institutional arrangement to get the data. Then the second level will be to look at how that data compares with what we have at Ghana Statistical Service from the producer price perspective. So we go to the industries, we go to the service sectors to get their prices, and that is what we use for the price, producer price inflation. Then we'll start merging that. So let's incrementally look out for these products, which will say that within 6 months, indeed, we can get the product out.
Okay. All right. Prof, we are very grateful that you found time to join us on the AM show on Joy News. So that's government statistician, Professor Kwabena Enim there. He used to be at the only university of competitive choice in Ghana. I mean, when we say this, people do not agree, but yeah, that's the only university of competitive choice, University of Cape Coast. We are producing.
All right.
You want us to move on? So let's stay there for a while.
No, we are going back to UCC.
Okay, yeah, good.
Because we've been joined by senior lecturer at the School of Business, Seram Kawo. Good morning to you, sir. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Madam.
Yes, and so while I engage you, my colleague Samuel Kojo Brace will just quickly take us through some statistics, give us a graphic representation of what we have been talking about with the government statistician so far. And it's just right there on your screen. So Samuel, do that and then we go to Mr. Cowell.
Okay. So we're looking at the December 2022 inflation. Let's start with headline inflation. Headline inflation, as it is on your screen, was 54.1%. Now, in terms of non-food inflation, so without food, what was the rate of change there? It was 49.9. And then, when it comes to food inflation, so the changes in your cassava, your flour, everything food, the eggs and whatever it was 59.7%. Now, let's look at the trend, the rate of change. Was it rising? Was it stagnating or was falling? If you look at it, in January 2022, it was 13.9. February 2022, it jumped to 15.7. March, it came to 19.4. In April 2022, it came to 23.6. May 2022, it was 27.6. So, Bernice, if you could see what's happening, it was rising in 2022. Now, in June, it rose to 29.8. In July, 31.7. In August, 33.9. September, it jumped to 37.2%. In October, it was 40.4. Now, at this point, a lot of people were then complaining that, I think it was around July that workers started complaining of cola, that cost of living has gone up, and so things should happen. Now, we were thinking that it could drop, but it didn't. In November, it jumped to 50.3%.
And that was a huge leap.
Exactly.
Considering the percentage at which it had been increasing from the beginning of the year. The 40%, 40.4 to 50.3, that was a huge one.
Yeah.
And then,
close to 10.
10 points,
it was close to 10,
Yeah.
And then in between November and December, we had somewhere around 2.7 being added on, so it jumped to 54.1. But that's when fuel prices had gone down and transport fares had been reduced, and people were expecting that there could be a change. But Prof explains that this is in comparison with what happened in December 2021. So it is now that they will be computing to know exactly what was a change, also responding to the reduction in fuel prices and to determine whether or not there was that, correlation between the reduction and the inflation rate. So that was it. Now, let's look at the December inflation trend. Now, this is for the month of December.
Just December.
Exactly. Now, if you look at it, in December 2013, the month of December 2013, it was 13.5. In December of 2014, it was 16.9. So in December, we buy Christmas things, and so around that period, we all understand that things shoot up. Now, in December of 2015, it was 17.7, but in December 2016, something happened. It reduced to 15.4. In December 2017, it reduced further to 9.3. Then in December 2018, it went up by 1 percentage point 1. So it jumped from 9.3 in 2017 to 9.4 in 2018. In 2019, it reduced further from 9.4 to 7.9. Then in December 2020, it jumped again to 10.4. In December 2021, it jumped to 12.6. But look at it, huge jump from 12.6 in December 2021 to 54.1 in December 2022.
So basically what it means is that if you compare December 2022 to December 2021, it means that things got tougher. And you can see the margin, there's quite a yawning gap there between 12.6 and 54.1. Very, very interesting.
So this is how the statistics is. Maybe the economist should help us understand how this could happen.
Yeah.
That December 2021 to December 2022, it could jump from 12.6 to 54.1. Mr. Kawo should probably help us to appreciate this better. So Bernice, that's the statistics in terms of the inflation rate.
Right. So over to you, Mr. Kawo. I mean, how does this even happen? Looking at what we've just displayed year on year, and just even zooming into the month of December alone, it just makes you wonder what at all could happen in a year for it to shoot that high.
Okay, thank you very much. If you look at the year 2022 in perspective, we have a lot of issues that came up. We came out of COVID, a lot of expenditure on COVID. Then we were hit by the Russia-Ukraine war. This Russia-Ukraine war also came up to affect global situation. We have the exchange rate fluctuating, and in 2022, it has gone up so much. And for that period, and Ghana as a country, we depend mostly on imports. And so once most of the things are imported, even those who are producing in the domestic market, they also import some raw materials and some supplies from outside the country. And all these things have affected the rate of inflation that we have seen in 2022. And looking at it, but then if you look at the explanation given by the government statistician, Prof. Enim, you would realize that the month-on-month inflation had dropped because of the measures put by government, the debt exchange issues, the staff level agreement that has come to play a role, and that had actually moved from November to December. We have almost 50% reduction in the inflation rate that we find as a country. And moreover, we have also spent so much as a country, and that also affects most of the things that we do. Now, when you look at what Prof said earlier on, that out of 307 commodities in the basket that they've been using for the calculation of inflation, we have 147 of those items having variations in the price levels of the items that they are putting up on the market in the same geographical area. And that brings about the issue of the cost build-up, the pricing of the commodities that we have. And that is very interesting to hear that government, the Statistical Service is working with other government institutions to ensure that this particular thing is well done. But I'm sure, having looked at the data, they are not just going to stay there. They're going to go ahead and recommend the measures government will take to ensure that the price levels that we see in the country reflects the reality, so that market women and men will not take advantage of the situations and bring about prices to enrich themselves and pricing items without recourse to the cost build-up.
Form of regulation of pricing of goods and services. I don't know what you make of that.
Yeah, so over time, we've been talking about the prices that we have in our country. Yes, we don't have price controls in the country, but then there should be some amount of regulation that before the regulation is done on how prices could be calculated, as we have been seeing in the with the oil marketing companies, because they have some regulations. Your prices must be within a particular range. That could also be extended to other players in the various industries that we have. But we need good education on how these things could be done. The industry players must be educated, the market women, the market queen, the men, all the players in the industry must be educated on how these things could be done. Otherwise, we will still have people putting prices of things anyhow, especially when it comes to the food items, from the farm gate to the marketplaces. What is the cost built up?
and we hear that a lot of the people who are the producers of the goods do not really benefit from it, but then the middlemen are the ones who do most of the profits in that particular regard. So there is a lot of education that needs to be done on all the sectors and across all individuals and the players in the industry.
Now, looking at what usually happens when we get to know what the inflationary figures are already, we know that labor uses it as a tool of negotiation. What we've been told is not negotiation per se, it's bargaining. What should we expect to see in terms of how the market will react to this inflationary figure?
Okay, so it's very important for the market to look at the rate as explained by the government statistician. If the market looks at the rate at inflation being 54.1% alone, that would be very problematic, because the rate of 54.1 alone is not just for the December period, but it moves from that of December last year, 2021, to December 2022. But when you look at the month-on-month inflation, it is actually decreasing over time, almost about half of what we got in November 2002. As at December 2002, November it was around 8%, but December it moved to 3.8%, almost 50% of that particular rate. So when labor is going to negotiate, they must also take into consideration that the month-on-month inflation is also going down, and that should be factored in the negotiations that they are going to look at. Of course, the market will respond in a way that, because we have seen that the times that the inflation, the exchange rate is high, transport fares are up, and the rest, they have bought a lot of the items already. And for that matter, they will want to recoup their cost during that particular time. But from December, January, as we are seeing, when these things come, when their stocks are done and they have to import other products or manufacture other products, we will see that the prices will have to be low, and that will reflect in the next level of inflation that we have. Though we cannot predict what is going to happen, but once we have seen a positive response in December, where the prices have stabilized over time, some have started coming down, that will also go into the negotiations going forward.
Interesting. So for you, not so much about what we recorded in terms of the year-on-year inflation, but the positive gains that we were able to make in December. So you're suggesting that this is not likely going to have an impact?
Yeah, so I'm not saying that we shouldn't look at the year-on-year inflation. The year-on-year inflation is very necessary for planning for businesses. So businesses that plan, some of the businesses plan for a long term, 5 years and above. And so the year-on-year is very necessary, but they must also take into account the inflation rate on the month-on-month inflation when they are looking at it, because that is going to affect the decisions the businesses are going to make.
Interesting. Now, we're also beginning to see the CD gradually lose against the dollar, even from the BOG's daily alerts or notifications that we receive. Does it worry you that we may see worse at times?
For me, it is not a worry, because the forex market is not stable, it's not static, it's a dynamic market, and the Bank of Ghana is the one responsible for the forex that we have in the country. And so during December, there has been a lot of things that have been done to ensure that the rate is stable over time. The question that one needs to ask is, what happened? What changes? The Bank of Ghana, have they changed anything? Is there something that they promised they are going to do? and so that the price will be stable? Have they reneged on that particular issue? One of them that they have done during the period is not to provide the forest to anybody, but to essential commodities that we need in the country. Is that still applicable, or be relaxed on that particular one? We've been promised that there is a goal for oil exchange that coming within a particular period. It has been postponed. We don't know whether it is going to be feasible or possible that this thing will happen. Buying of gold within the country to stabilize the forest that we have. What happens to that particular one? These are a lot of questions that we have, and if we could not get concrete answers to them, then it will be a worrying situation altogether. But if you understand the forest market, it's a dynamic market depending on the forces of demand and supply that we have in the market. If we are still importing more, and we've said it over and over, that the issue of the import substitution that we want to create should not be on paper, but should be backed with action, where the local producers that are going to produce some of these things must be brought on board. There should be finances that are provided to them. And once these things are done and they bought into the idea, they would have produced and reached a particular level before we try to cut down on some of the imports that we are doing over time. If you look at the case of Nigeria, where they are able to produce more rice to feed their own people, then it is telling us that what we are also going to do, we cannot just say that we are stopping the importation of rice when the local market cannot feed what is being done. So we have to look at that as well.
You're saying the forex market is dynamic, but we know in this country what happens when the dollar performs so well against the CD and vice versa. It literally translates into pricing of goods, because we are a very import-driven economy. And that's why I was asking if it was going to predict any doom for us.
That we need to be careful how we put that particular one out. Yes, there has been an upward adjustment in the forest that we see today, but then still, let me go to the government statistician, the price built up. So what is the price built up? If we understand the price built up very well, that would not affect whatever that we are getting on the market. Of course, there are some people on the market that do not buy items on the dollar rate, but we have developed the culture of pricing almost everything we have in the country against the dollar. When the person even buys with Ghana cedis, they will tell you that, the dollar rate is up, and that is why the prices are going up. Housing, for instance, we still have housing pricing being quoted in the US dollar, and that is very worrying as a country. So we need to be cautious. Yes, the rate is appreciating over time, but then that should not go to translate into the prices that we have in the market going up. Of course, there are people who do not know anything about the forest. They don't trade in the forest. They don't buy anything in the forest. But once the news goes out, then they start increasing their prices as they are, and it is not too good for the market. We need to be very positive and ensure that those who are bringing the items, the way they also translate the cost to the wholesalers and then the final consumer must also be looked at. Of course, when we are looking at the price build up, the increment in VAT, we shouldn't forget about that. The increment in VAT also comes in to also affect the cost of the items that we find in the market, not only the forest that we have.
And so we've seen an increase in VAT, for example. And so we will just wait to see how it goes and even plays out in the next statistics that we will receive from the Ghana Statistical Service. But let me say thank you to you, Mr. Cowell, for joining us this morning. Seram Cowell is a senior lecturer at the UCC School of business. You're welcome back. Thank you so much for staying on the show. And Brace, before we bring that conversation on the e-levy, which actually started yesterday, the 1% e-levy which started yesterday, would like to flip the script a bit today. We'll take your thoughts on what we've discussed so far and other pertinent issues. The number to call 0302 211 691, 0302 211 691. This morning, we've been talking about the base pay negotiations between government and the labor unions. We've had Mr. Austin Gami share his thoughts with us. He thinks this is more of bargaining than a negotiation. We've also spoken about what the law actually says and whether and what it will take us to go to the books and do what the book says. And then we've also been talking about the inflation figure for December and its likely impact on cost of doing business and other important transactions within our economic space, and we've been discussing that just before the break. So you can call the numbers on your screen, 0302 211 691, and share your thoughts with us. While we wait for your call, though, let me just remind you that the Ghana Revenue Authority wants you to know that wishing to apply for the tax clearance certificate should be done online via the taxpayersportal.com or download the Ghana Taxpayers app on Google Play Store or the App Store. Applicants who visit the taxpayer service centers will be assisted by officers of the authority to apply. Applicants are also required to indicate the taxpayer identification number, that's TIN, of the institution or organization requesting the certificate so that they can receive a copy. Applicants should take note and be guided accordingly. Kindly contact GRA's toll-free 0800 900 110 or via these WhatsApp numbers 055 299 0000 or 020 063 1664 or send an email to gra.gov.gh for further inquiries. And that's how you help yourself out with the new tax clearance system. We have our first caller from Wale Wale. Hello, Lawrence. Good morning to you. Let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah, good morning, madam.
Good morning.
Yeah, what I want to say is about the base pay, salary base pay increment issue. I think the government has to show some commitment with regards to that because the last 2 years, we saw labor unions agreeing on 3 and 7%, which was woefully inadequate. So with the level of hardship and then the economic thing that is happening now, I think the government has to also soften their stance and then just find a way out so that they will have a common ground for workers to improve the lives of workers.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, Lawrence, joining the program from Wale. Just a few ground rules. When you call us, please listen to us on your phone, not on the television set. There will be a delay. Just reduce the volume of your TV set so that we can have a real on-time interaction. Also, please go straight to the point and let us know what you would like to share, and the rest of the world will hear about it. So,
I think you can also share their thoughts on the e-levy thing.
Oh, definitely. What are your experiences with the e-levy? Have you sent any money? Did you realize whether or not the threshold was still being adhered to? My personal experience sending some mobile money is that the threshold was being adhered to. So what are your experiences using the mobile money platform since yesterday, since the new e-levy percentage kick started? We'll be glad to take that and share it with the rest of the world. Let me just mention also that my colleague Michael Ashale is out. He'll be interacting with some of you on what exactly your experiences are with the e-levy and what your thoughts are. We have a caller from Kumasi. Hello to me. Kumi?
Please, good morning.
Good morning, Kumi. Let's hear you, please.
Please let me shift your attention on. I'm a student from KUST, and I want to make a concern about our fee.
Please go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
We're listening.
Yeah, we were supposed to we paid 1,861 cedis last year. And the government told us there's going to be an increment in like 15%.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. But now, according to the fees they brought in to us yesterday, we are paying about 3,883 cedis. That is about 94% increment. So please, yeah.
Thank you for hinting us. Thank you for drawing our attention. KNUST, you said? Right, so we'll get our colleagues and our team in the Ashanti region to look into this, and we'll see how it goes. There have been a lot of concerns, even just this morning on the 6 a.m. news. There were concerns about private schools and how much they were charging, and parents are quite worried.
Yeah.
These schools and institutions are citing the cost of doing business, the city's depreciation, and the general economic climate as reasons for increasing the fees. I don't know of any school or any parent who has not paid an increase in fees this time.
I've seen a school that said that because of the economy, things in the CD doing well for a price, so they have reduced their fees by 100 cedis.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I'm sure that's an outlier. We have Mate from Mankesim. Good morning to you. Let's hear you, please.
Good morning, madam. Yes, I'm calling from Mankesim, and my problem is I'm a professional driver, and whilst the Dallas, our city, by God willing, was chasing the Dallas, we all got it happy because we saw that the government is now performing well. And to our expectation, we drivers, we thought once we have reduced our fares, we thought it will also go all round to goods and services. And as I'm speaking now, tires, oil, everything that we buy to service our car, the price is as it is. When you go to government institutions, what DVLA, everything over there also has been increased. We are not seeing any impact as drivers. And we don't have anybody to speak for us. Our own DPRTU is not doing as to me my expectation, performing as my expectation. So what I'm the only one concerned driver speaking now that once the drivers or the government has seen to it that we have reduced our fares, we want to see our tie also reduce. The price of our tie also reduce. And also, I think we can make it as a Ghanaian. The government can make it the way and the manner monies are leaking. I don't know how to use it. Understand my English, please. I don't know. We have to start everything afresh and say what we started wasn't good and where we are heading to is in the deep manner. So we should all break as a nation and start everything afresh. It seems nothing is working here. When you are a Ghanaian and you want to acquire something from some office, you have to pay extra. The extra is even more than the total amount. Go to DSVLA. Go to every sector. You have to pay double. Whom you know. I think the country is not all that. Some people are not happy. A lot of people are not happy. And we have to sit down as a nation and start everything afresh.
Right.
So that this country can move on.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. That's a caller from Mankesim, and he is quite disturbed. And he's not the first. He's not the first person raising the concerns. At the time, the drivers were encouraged to reduce their fares because of the reduction in fuel prices. We stepped out, and many of them had this concern that okay, we are fine. We're going to reduce it, but will we see an impact? Will food, the prices of foods and goods and services reduce? And
we haven't seen it much.
We haven't seen that much. So, well, your concerns are well noted, and I'm sure that those who can take the action will do so. We have another caller from Ajumakun. Aidu.
Beidu, huh?
Aidu.
Okay.
Is it Aidu or Beidu?
Aidu.
All right, okay. Let's hear you, please.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, please, can you update us more concerning government negotiation with TUC concerning salary increment?
The increment in your base pay, well, as it is now, there's been nothing really concrete agreed on. So government is still in a meeting with the labor unions. They've had about 9 or 10 sessions already. We understand that there will be another meeting today. We don't know if that will still end in a stalemate, but we hope to see what happens exactly with that. But as it is now, nothing concrete has come up yet.
Okay.
All right.
Well, you can also call us and have your viewpoint heard about the issues we've discussed. We've discussed inflation rate in Ghana. We've spoken about the base pay, as someone just called and asked about it. We've discussed that one. Mr. Game says the two parties have entrenched positions, and that's why we're not making progress. What do you also make of it? You can also share your point on the E-levy that has been reduced from 1.5% to 1%. If you did a business yesterday or did a transaction, what is your experience? But let's go to Asankregwa now.
Hello, Amo.
Hello.
Good morning to you. Let's hear you.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm speaking in support of the one who spoke on behalf of drivers.
Right.
I'm with the transport sector. Recently, government asked drivers to reduce prices, and we humbly obliged and reduced the prices to an appreciable percentage. But what we are seeing is that almost everything, prices on goods and services, are still rocketing high. Especially, let's look at insurance now. Insurance companies have increased their insurance coverage to almost about 50%. As we speak now, DVLA are also charging new prices for new registration of cars. Renewal of roadworthy prices have also gone up. So what is the government doing? Our plea is that government should also go into those sectors. Not only always on drivers, reduce fare, at least we appreciate the reduction in fuel prices. But in other sectors, prices are still going high. So we are pleading with the government to come to the aid of drivers, because it's like working from hand to mouth. You work at the end of the day, after making your sales, you have nothing to spend on your family. So that is my small contribution.
Thank you very much for joining the program. That's another driver that raising concerns that an earlier caller raised. But we know that there are those who strongly oppose this idea by the drivers, because they say, well, at the time the fuel went up and you were increasing.
You were citing the increases in fuel prices.
It was only that. But I mean, it's a fair point. If, as a driver, I have to pay more for insurance, I have to pay more for other services, then I might as well just
pass it on to the consumer.
A caller from WA joins us. Hello, Karim. Good morning to you, Karim. Let's hear you.
All right. Good morning. I want to contribute on the issue of the EUC negotiation with government.
Okay.
I think they are not getting a headway, because this time the number has been increased, so everybody is there. The reality too is catching up with us. So we want to, if the government has to show a commitment that they are ready, or we are in crisis, so we should understand. But if you are having a government that is not ready to understand that we are in crisis, to do away with unnecessary projects, that means the workforce too will not also understand you. Let's say we are currently, inflation is at 4.1. So that means the salary that we have taken now, it has been taken away almost like 54% of it has been taken away. And you want us to accept something that is small? Meanwhile, you are putting projects like cathedral and all those things. These are not necessary now. They are not necessary now. So these are projects and other things and wastage that the government needs to do away with them. If the government is able to do away with such waste, then we will all understand that, okay, now we are in crisis. So we can all sit together and understand. And I think that the government is not ready to negotiate or to listen to people. Because I can remember the previous regime when there was crisis, they invited people to come and help them, give them ideas on how to solve the problem. But this government is not listening. And people who with dissenting views, they give advices, they won't take. Whatever they feel they want to do, that's what they are doing. So if today we are in this crisis and you are not showing that we are in crisis and you want the labor force to rather, to reduce their demand, I don't think this will be possible. So I'm standing with our colleagues who are there doing the negotiation. At least the 50% that they are standing. It's a very good point because currently inflation is at 54, and we cannot bring down our expectations. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you too.
So you can also call in and have your viewpoint heard about the issues that we've discussed. Inflation, how is that affecting you? We've also discussed, the negotiation between government and labor about base pay increment. There's still the negotiation is still ongoing. They haven't gotten to any agreement, but Mr. Game is warning that the government needs to be truthful with the labor. He has to let labor know the exact situation, so that they can also buy into it, because they did it in 2014, so government can do it now. Again, e-levy has been reduced from 1.5 to 1%. What do you make of all of these issues and more? Let's go to Kumasi now.
Yes, sir. Abendao joins us from Kumasi. Let's hear you, sir.
Good morning. And Afisha Panso.
Afisha to you, Abendao.
2022, I haven't spoken to you. But where is my man to Wakako? Where is he?
He's around.
He's around.
I hear. Yeah, anyway, I also want to comment a little on the price of goods and services that are high. Because you know that even in Kumasi here, the price of sachet water, others sell it at 30 pesos, others sell it at 40 pesos, but still, others sell it at 50 pesos. So, in fact, it's like some of us, we are our own enemies, because the prices of the sachet has been reduced. Why is it that you are selling it single to consumers to drink, and instead of 30 pesos or 40 pesos, you are selling at 50 pesos, and we still look unconcerned at them, and we buy. So, in fact, the price of goods and services, though drivers have done well by reducing their fares, but still at the market, in fact, the reduction has not taken place, and only fares, reduction in fares cannot solve the problem, but unless at the market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abendao, for sharing your thoughts with us. But if what he's saying is reflective in many parts of the country, then that's problematic. And that's why some people have called for some form of control or regulation. Because if somebody sells it at 30, another at 40, another at 50, that's just too much disparity on the markets. But then again, there's some who also say that, okay, I may be paying more to store it in someone else's refrigerator, and so I mean, some of the pricing dynamics are just interesting. But
and because we're in the free market, you'd want to sell faster and more. So you decide, let me reduce it a bit so I can sell more, and that's why these things.
Some of these things happen, right? Let's head to the Upper East now. Salifu, hello, Salifu. Salifu joins us from the Upper East. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, madam. Good morning.
Good morning. Let's hear what you have to share.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. Please, my concern is about the e-levy.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, Ghanaians, we have a problem when we are not used to something. The e-levy, we're all expecting that it will be like 50 pesos. Then we kickstart with it. But the way they went, like 1.5, now bringing it back to 1%, that kind of resistance is there. I have a moment money that I'm doing. I'm also an agent. And then initially when we used to send money to people from our wallet, because of the e-levy, most of them have stopped. And so that kind of resistance is there. So even the reduction, I'm seeing that it will not make that kind of impact. People are now just running away from even transferring money from their account to their friends and other relatives. And so I don't see them realizing the actual result that they intend to have. So that is just my worry.
Right.
At least when we are starting, we should have started with the minimum 50%, 0.5%.
Okay.
All right. I don't get you. When you say this, you started from 50 pesos, do you mean the threshold?
Yes, please. The threshold should have been 50 pesos. That's 0.5%.
No. So he means the rate. The rate should have been
the rate I'm talking
0.5
of.
instead of 1%.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, sure. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, Salifu from the Upper East region. Right. If you also want to join the conversation, you can do so. The number to call 0302 211 691 0302 221. No, 0302 211 691. I beg your pardon. And we'll be glad to share it with the rest of the world. At the time we were starting the e-levy implementation, I remember there was a lot of conversation, there was a lot of education, there were people who were trying to evade it.
People did.
And we saw a drop in the numbers. Will this propel an increase in the use of the electronic mobile money transfer system again? We'll see how it goes. Obviously, it's early days here. So just give ourselves about a month or two and see if this brings back people's desire to do Momo transactions.
The Ghana Revenue Authority was giving us daily updates when it began. Maybe they should bring it back so we know whether we're doing well or we're doing worse.
Right. Let's hear from Razak in Techiman, is it? Hello, Razak.
Hello.
Good morning to you. How's Techiman this morning?
Techiman is cool. Yet, I also want to contribute about the individual bondholders are affected by the debt restructuring.
Right.
So I know the individuals, they are suffering too much. And then government government don't want to share the burden. At least some of the individual bondholders, some are about 60, 70 years, and they are suffering a lot. So, and government is having an elephant size. Why government don't cut the elephant size, and then we will be able to restructure the debt and let the individual to have a space. Some are under this diseases, they are suffering from serious illness. So they don't even know what to do. The money to, and the government want to take their money. So I beg government to go and engage them and accept them so that individual bondholders should not be affected.
Right.
That's what I have this morning.
Thank you, Razak, and thank you for joining the program. Interesting. And yesterday we shared the letter we received from the bondholders, led by Senor Hosi. And later in the day, we heard very strongly from him on PM Express. And I honestly cringe at the thought of what is going to happen in the coming days with regards to the debt exchange program, government likely to review it, make amendments. And then again, the big question is, what will happen to the IMF deal? Well, we have a caller from Accra. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it Denzel?
No, I'm Terry.
Terry, rather. Okay,
yes.
Let's hear you, Terry.
Good. So my concern has got to do with the persistent increase of prices of goods and debt services. So we see governments, trying to put in measures to bring down prices of goods, and now we cannot also witness the reduction of fuel prices. but then it's not reflecting in the prices of goods and services. And this is as a result of our behavior as Ghanaians. Now, my question is, who is the sole body to maintain discipline in the country? Because we see the reduction of fuel prices, but then it's not reflecting in the prices of goods and services. So what is government doing?
So that's his question. What's government doing about that? Thank you so much for joining us. You can also call us and be part of the discussion. 0302211691, 0302211691. Other people are sharing their thoughts about the e-levy. Some are talking about the inflation rate. Others are even talking about what drivers are going through, and others too are sharing with us the increment in their fees that they disagree. You can also call us and let's hear from you, your viewpoint on the issues we've discussed and other issues that bother on the nation's development. Kojo is in Accra.
Hello, Kojo. Good morning. Let's hear you. Odum, rather. Let's hear you.
Odum, eh?
Yeah. My contribution is about how the country has now gone into. You see, everything is out of order. Look at the way the school books and things are gone now. Everything is serious. Things are gone high. You see, we the parents are suffering now. You see, we the parents are suffering. So we beg the country, the leaders of the country to do something. To do something for us. We beg.
Okay.
Things are very tough. Too much. You see, so we beg the leaders to do something for us. We beg.
Thank you for sharing with us. And you can imagine coming out of Christmas, going into new school term, there will be a lot of pressure and burden. And so when things get harder, then I know someone shared with me when she was going to get some provisions for her ward in the senior high school, there was a mother and her child who had to cut down on their list. And the child said, "Mommy, it's okay. You can slash it. You can give me half of it." Because this is a child who goes to the market with the mother and knows, even for that child, the child can tell how difficult things have become. And you know what? I mean, at this point, we need to call a spade a spade. Many of the schools are now relying on parents to buy and pay for a lot of things that should be provided by government. If you're a parent who's watching me, I don't know if you have a ward in high school and you face a similar situation, you can share with us. I know, for example, there's a school that is asking children to bring in A4 sheets to print mock examinations because they cannot afford it. They're asking students to bring buckets of paint because they cannot afford it. And so you ask yourself, if indeed I am a very poor parent who is so excited and benefiting so much from this free SHS. How do I contribute to some of these things? And it's almost become compulsory.
I had a call from a lady who says that everything they bought when they admitted a student, they had to buy it again this time for them to take it to the school. And it's a problem.
Well,
let's go to Kumasi.
Go back to Kumasi and speak to Ahmed. Hello, Ahmed. Let's hear you.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Ahmed from Kumasi.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead with your contribution.
And it seems, and I want to share my thoughts on the driver's issue.
On the what?
The driver's issue.
All right, Ahmed, please speak up a bit for us.
And it seems the Ghanaians, we don't appreciate beauty. Yeah, the level of our attitude is not good at all. People like money more than God.
Oh.
That's our situation. That's what we are facing. We don't want to face reality. When there is an increment on something, and people will increase their goods. And when government decreases, they don't want to decrease this thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's our problem. We're facing here in Kumasi. People like money more than God. We have to be God-fearing. It's not good attitude at all.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, Ahmed 030. Ahmed calling us and sharing his thoughts with us
from Kumasi.
Right.
This person says inflation is biting fishers disproportionately. This was sold, so it's an engine oil. It says it was sold at 75 Ghana cedis last year before the steady fall of the cedi. It's now sold for 150 cedis. And he says with a halt in premix fuel supply, fishers now have to buy more of petrol engine oil to mix the super to power the outboard motors. Price of fish have gone up high, with a pound of fish selling for 2,000 cedis and above in some cases.
Right, so we'll be bringing you that interaction our colleague Michael Ashali had with some of you on the e-levy. But guess what? You remember those 8 students who were suspended for insulting the president? They have been dismissed. A lot of reactions on our social media page. You can get onto JoyNews Facebook page and read the details of the story for yourself and leave your comment there. It's generating a lot of conversation on social media, and we thought that we would just throw this in for you. But now let's bring you that conversation. Today we give you the microphone on the 1% e-levy that started on Wednesday. We asked if this will change your mind about using electronic transfers, or you're still one of those who's just not going to buy into it.
It's back on the table again, and this time round, the fee charge has been reduced from 1.5% to 1%. That's the latest amendment from Parliament here. We are in 37 somewhere in Accra, asking patrons and users of the electronic transfer medium what they make of this year. I have this gentleman here who will help us understand his point of view of this. What's your name?
Me James Manu.
Okay, James. So, James, what do you make of the latest amendments, and what do you think that's going to help you in any way? Are you going to be saving more?
The mechanic say me person me person me carry chima yenua say you live in abano said the almost artist so abano e be boy yenua san say sika no mo na say the open to djuma bi say e be boy bebre san say okọ foreign countries na me say makwa Dubai kakra. 3 years ni sa tax na ye dem kontuduma okuru ma bibia koso kama Ghana ye kohwa ne ye ni ajesan se ne manyina dana kom na mpem for the esrom ne taxes ne ba o mfa nyem kontuduma na ye so ye komanto ye na tua de nka head anye problem.
So I mean, what he's been telling me is that, I mean, paying taxes or something like the e-levy is very normal. He goes that way. He likes that. However, he's only entreating leadership to use the money for developmental purposes. So he has no problem paying taxes, especially e-levy. So time nango for kaso yentisu yenyi if anana wadwen kire wo
the madwe chemi na say yetiso a be boati mumufo no na mumu say ye dwen say yentiso na ye dwen say ye besu kwan be na be fa so empuntudwuma wo man mu nti ni mienu nyina na me dwen ho mienu ba timpanyfo na atiso kakraba fom na ama obi ahwan ha no bi say ye fan ma obi a
this is your best visika
oh da bibia na mabin sisi me ware to da bia me disika guso sa because me nimba bia ho kire beba na da bank so a bia wo no na untimi kokko yisika na ehye oboto so akofo betimi yi enti dan nyina me pese sika ho mo ware to so betimi yisika e da hwe me family.
But that's it, James. So he ends by telling me that he's encouraging all and sundry not to stop using the medium, but rather to use it. He thinks that the reduction in the fee charged is a good step that will bring some more people onto the platform again.
Like if you want some money, they can take like you say 100 cedi, they can take like 1 cedi, so that it will help us. Yes, that's all. That thing I know.
So initially, if you sent more than 100 cedis, you'll be charged more than 1 cedi 50 pesos. I mean, let's take it a flat rate. If it was 100 cedis, you'll be charged 1 cedi 50 pesos. Now you're going to be charged 1 Ghana cedis. Yes. That puts 50 pesos in your pocket. What would you be using that for?
Oh, I can use that 50 pesos to buy water. It can help me to buy water. Yes. Yeah.
But again, what do you make? Should we continue paying it, or government should continue to think about scrapping it, removing it entirely? No charges from government?
Nah, if no charges, try good. Yeah. We have to make it remove them. Yeah, make it remove them.
Why make it remove them?
Because like if you send that 100 cedi, where did they take like 1 cedi and 50 pesos? You know they help us. Like if they take like 1 cedi, that 50 pesos you can take buy something. It will help us. That's why we say make it a remover. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much. I didn't get your name.
Okay. Please, Kevin.
When it was initiated, people were complaining about it, and most of us realized that it's going to help the government to be able to operate freely in the economy. And looking at the individuals in Ghana, they were complaining because of the difficulties and economic hardships. So at the moment, it's been deducted, and I believe that in fact that is going to help a lot. And concern people about their opinion, we could see that yes, it's now about to help the people in terms of what hardships. And when we're talking about disadvantages, in fact, people were looking at other measures to using other MTN lines, that's network lines. And at the moment, in fact, they have heard that the government has brought down to that percentage. So people are now about to balance the usage of the network nowadays.
I see. So, but where do you stand on that? Your personal opinion. You think that the 1% you're not going to be paying will help your finances better than the 1.5?
Yes, it will help. Why? Because when it was initiated for the first time, monetary aspect was so tough. But right now, I think it's okay. Yes, please.
Okay, great. So, but again, where do you stand on the conversation on whether government should further reduce it or scrap it entirely?
Okay, for the government to be able to run the economy smoothly, it has to be initiated. It has to take effect.
So we shouldn't scrap it?
No, please. It should be on effect so that the government at least can help the economy run faster.
Wonderful. So what's your name though?
My name is Mr. Ernest.
Sure. Thank you very much, Ernest. Asking some more people here at 37 what they think about the reduction of the tax charges from 1.5 to 1% here. Rita, then what do you on? Say 1.5 number you back one on. Ebe boa one I'm wow.
Emboa, so mu yi frisu. O mu yi no kra.
Ane jina mu yi ni kra.
On say enyo bia no benya sa ne a ode be ka ho no. On say first no sanka o say ne e bia 1,000 na say we are ne ade be ka ho ne so. Ti ko mu yi frisu anka be boa ye ye me fancy ye dodo na be boa ye san say ama ho kire no sisi akra metumi aka say bebre na entumi ensani ska fanfa mobile money so baby so mo
na wo Rita no 2022 no 11 e boa wana mwa so wo send ska were you worried that you were going to pay the charges?
Oh, atu nti no say nia say wo pay o say umpa ndi say atu ntumi nya wo hwe.
Okay, but see na ba 1.0 wo still say wo say umpa.
Okay, my fans out there. And yes, she ever fanisa. Me to me fanisa. And so, be I know being so ntias yes.
Then the unyanka, yikra. Thank you very much. So Rita has been telling me that although she still continues to use the platform, she'd love that the e-levy charge is scrapped entirely. But however, the reduction from 1.5 to 1% is a better move than having to pay 1.5% on most of the transactions that she did. Let's find out for some more people here. This gentleman here, I've been going through the transactional process, and depending on which of the transactions they decide to go through, they'll be paying e-levy. Let me start with the gentleman here. Bossman, I mean, how is it going for you? I mean, e-levy will reduce from 1.5 to 1%. A good move, or you think that it's still bad?
Oh, it's a good move. It's a good move. It's a good move. You know, since this e-levy started, there has been complaints all over. There has been complaints all over, and we've tried to immerse ourselves into it, and we've tried to, let's say, we didn't disobey the, let's say, the regulations being said or being put to place in. But since it has been reduced, it's to our own benefit and it is helping us. So it's okay, it's fine.
But what does that mean for your finances?
Okay, with my finances, it has reduced a lot for me, because some of us, our earnings are not that much like others. So it is okay though. It's to our benefit.
I mean, where do you stand in the conversation of either to scrap the e-levy entirely, because we are all in hard times, or you think that the charge should be further reduced?
Oh, the charge should be further used, because now this toll and other stuff, taxes and other stuff has also been. I learned that is VAT also increased recently, but this e-levy and stuff will also help us to take the day-to-day activities in the country, and it's okay. Since toll is no more, we can just use, but it should just be standardized for everybody not to complain about it though.
Thank you very much. So let me ask this gentleman here. Bossman, I mean, how does it help you? 1.5 to 1%?
Oh, at first it wasn't easy, but for now I think it's better now. So we're managing it for how it was. Because at previous, we are talking about it a lot, but now I think it's better. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, what does it mean for your finances? For you, so say if you were saying 1,000 Ghana cedis, you were supposed to pay 15 Ghana cedis for just the e-levy charge alone. But now you're going to be paying around 10 Ghana cedis. That puts 5 cedis in your pocket. What would you use it for?
Sometimes, we use it to manage for credit or anything. For green bundle also. It helps us a lot. But at first, it wasn't easy. So I think it's okay now. It's okay, yeah.
Great. So finally, where do you stand? Should we further reduce it from 1%, or we should scrap it? Because we are all in hard times. Even government is at the IMF.
I think 1% will be okay. Yeah. So,
let me thank you for. But I didn't get your name.
I'm Foster Namiche.
Okay, great. What about you?
I'm Raymond Anzi. Yeah.
Raymond and his friend, thank you very much. So we've been hearing from some of them. Mobile money vendors were one of those heavily pushing against the implementation of the e-levy here. Let's ask some of them what they think. Please, what's your name?
Gladys.
Okay, Gladys. So how did the business fare when e-levy came on board?
Okay, most of the customers were not doing transactions because it's like the economy is hard. So when they have to send money, another increase in charges. So the business wasn't moving. Yes.
I see. So I mean, what were the scenarios that played out there? Is it that people came here and left, or people reduced the amount of money that they were sending?
Actually, the number of people who used to come is reduced. Hence, let's say if a day like maybe 10 people came, now it came to 5 people. The transaction wasn't going that much. Yes, like first when there wasn't any e-levy.
Okay, great. So now the service charge has been reduced from 1.5 to 1%. I mean, it's just been only 2 days, very early. But how has the business been responding to that?
Okay, I don't know. Maybe I think some of the people don't know said there has been a reduction in the e-levy. But then still the same. Maybe at least in a week's time or in 2 weeks' time, maybe we'll see some changes.
Great. So for you as a vendor, what are expectations for 2023? Whilst the 1.1% is going to be used as the e-levy charge?
Oh, I pray that the business comes more, customers come and then make their transactions.
Gladys, thank you very much. So Gladys is hopeful that the business will pick up after the announcement of the reduction in the e-levy charge from 1.5 to 1%. What's your name?
I'm Gabriel.
Okay. Gabriel, so since it was implemented in 2022, how does the business respond to this implementation?
Well, business has been normal. Yeah, people keep coming, even though people keep coming to the ups and downs of this e-levy controversy. But it has been good. Yeah, business has been good.
I see. So, but there were concerns that when the e-levy was implemented, people stopped doing many transactions per day. Again, eventually people came back, but many of them started reducing their volumes. If they were sending initially 1,000 Ghana cedis, maybe they were now sending 500 or even below the 100 cedis that will not be charged. I mean, did you see anything like that here?
Yeah. When the e-levy was implemented, I think the number of customers coming per day reduced. Yeah, which was a little bit bad for business.
Okay, great. So 2023, the 1.5% rate has now been changed to 1%. It's just only been 2 days, but how is the business responding to this? Or the people have stopped asking you about e-levy?
Yeah, the charges, people don't really care about the charges. What they care is about the amount of money being taken off the amount they are sending. Okay. That's what they really care. But the charges, I'm not sure they care about it. But yesterday, up to today, there's been some serious changes here, and people are coming gradually.
I see. Gabriel, so in 2023, as a mobile money vendor, what is your expectation?
Yeah, I think since the charges has been dropped by 0.5%, I am expecting more customers, and it should up in profit as well.
Gabriel, thank you very much. So you heard from Gabriel. He's expecting business to boom. If for nothing at all, it should return to normalcy here. Well, for them, it's a welcome decision. But for many others, they'd want this rate to be further reviewed downwards. It remains to be seen whether that will ever happen. For JoyNews, Michael Ashale.
And in our studios at Kokomlemle, I'm Bernice, and he's Samuel Kojo Brace.
Exactly.
And that's how we wrap up today's edition of the AM show. We are super grateful that you can make time to join us. It's a Friday tomorrow, another exciting show promised. And, we'll always put you at the heart of everything that we discuss. So we're handing over to the next team, News Desk.
But Bernice, before we go,
yes,
a younger brother of mine is celebrating a birthday today. He's Isaac Tando, but people know him as King Kobe. He's an IT and digital literacy coach, enthusiast, entertainer, and voice actor. So King Kobe, wherever you are today, a blessed birthday to you. And like we say in our language, Nyamle Yirao. To it, God bless you.
All right. Did you say Nyamin Yirao?
Nyamle Yirao.
Okay, that sounds like Nyamin Shirao.
Exactly.
Okay. Nice one, nice one. So, God bless you to all of you who also did the watching. Yeah, it also sounds like Maudne Yirao.
Yeah, Nyamane Yirao.
Okay.
Ahanta.
See how we are connected?
Exactly.
So many ways. Well, thank you so much once again for doing the watching. God willing, we are back again tomorrow. And do take care of yourself, but do stay with us. We are your most credible news source. News Desk is next.